Welcome aboard the AM show for this Thursday morning, fourth day of the week. It's always a pleasure coming your way. My name is Benjamin Akakpo, and as always, I'm doing this together with Bernice, Abu-Baidoo, Lansah. Welcome aboard. Now, coming up today, in the course of the news review, we'll be joined by Bridget Jogbenuku, former flag bearer of the PPP, who will be joining us right here on the show as we get into the newspapers. That'll come your way after the news. Then we get into our big stories, and Richard Ahiangba, Communications Director of the NPP, will be joining us. A press conference was held on the back of latest developments in the NDC. What do the NPP have to say, and what do they have to say about the appreciation of the Ghana cedi against the American dollar? We'll be bringing you details of that, among other matters of national concern from the standpoint of the NPP that feels that it will run roughshod over the new elected officials of the NDC. But also coming up today, we'll be talking about economic matters, and we'll be looking at the performance, of course, of the Ghana cedi in recent times. It rose steadily, and now there's been a bit of a dip. But where do we find ourselves economically speaking, and what can we expect in the coming days? We'll be discussing on that, especially as Christmas beckons. This and more coming your way this morning on the AM show. Just stay with us. And of course, don't forget to share your thoughts with us via the live stream. The hashtag is AM show. At the tail end, when we give you the opportunity, just call through and share your thoughts with us. For now, though, let's settle for the news up next. Our apologies for that break. We're back now with our first story. And after weeks of signaling its intention to block the approval of an 80 million cedi allocation to fund the National Cathedral project, the minority in Parliament successfully scuttled the allocation. Government had allocated the amount to fund the controversial project despite public pressure to change course. Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta has now withdrawn the allocation. There'll be more on that shortly. First, though, here are some majority members of Parliament arguing in favor of the allocation.
The minority leader has forgotten. I was in an aircraft with him someday, very, very late. And when the aircraft was breaking through the clouds, the turbulence was so much that everybody was shouting, "Oh God, oh Jesus, oh God, oh Allah." That's what was happening. He was there. He himself was shouting. Mr. Speaker, when soldiers are going to war and they are about to go and fight, those who are Christians go on their knees to pray to God, and those who are Muslims go on their knees and bow down to pray to Allah. Mr. Speaker, there is nothing more important to us as human beings to believe that there's somebody out there who created us. Is this budget, how much is captured in this budget? And we say that we should spend 80 million cedis on God, and people have a problem with it. I don't. Me and my family, the members on this side don't. And I want the Christian community to know from today that we don't.
This project is estimated to cost $382 million. Mr. Speaker, so far, the amount expended is 339 million Ghana cedis, not dollars. And the last speaker was saying that we have spent more than 30% as envisaged in the construction document. Mr. Speaker, 339 million Ghana cedis is nowhere near 10% of the project cost. So there is no overexpenditure in respect of the construction. Mr. Speaker, the National Cathedral is coming under the Monuments and Museums Board. Mr. Speaker, this is an edifice that will also provide us with the basic infrastructure for tourism as we expect our tourism potential to be harnessed. I want to end by also supporting the budget for this year's pilgrimage so that people from Ghana can also undertake this pilgrimage this year under the budget which we are passing today. So, Mr. Speaker, it is good that our Muslim brothers are in support of this project because we need to equalize and get also something out of the Ghanaian expenditure for our Christian brothers also.
Now, the minority side also forcefully argued that the allocation was misplaced and had to be rejected. Watch MP for Ningo Prampram Sam George and MP for Esunafo South Eric Opoku state their position.
By putting it on record that as an elder of a church and as a Bible-believing Christian, we on this side are not against the building of a cathedral. And this is what the Bible we believe in says to us. In Luke 14, 28 to 30, is there anyone here planning to build a new house, in this case a cathedral, who doesn't first sit down to figure the cost so you know if you can complete it? If you only get the foundation laid, and Mr. Speaker, the Bible is so telling. The Bible knew Ghana will have a president called Akufo-Addo. This is what he says. If you only get the foundation laid and then run out of money, you are going to look pretty foolish. Everyone passing by will poke fun at you. He started something he couldn't finish. This is the word of the Lord. Don't you look foolish because you have only laid a foundation and run out of money. Mr. Speaker, this is not some church, this is the Bible. You don't go to church. In the Bible, God calls only one man, a man after his own heart. And that man was David, a man after God's own heart. A man that the finance minister aspires to be like in vain. But you see, Mr. Speaker, even when David wanted to build a temple for God, a man he called a man after his own heart. He said, you have blood on your hands. And for that sake, you cannot build me a temple. So he puts together the materials for the temple for his son. Mr. Speaker, I end by remembering the lost 8 citizens who lost their lives in the 2020 elections. There is blood on their hand. Can we build a temple for God? Thank you very much.
Then you come here to defend the indefensible. One day, all of us, including Mr. Speaker, will appear before the throne of the Almighty God. That day, Mr. Speaker, several questions will be posed to us. Many of us will run away because of what we are doing today. We have a duty to protect life. We have a duty to ensure that our people are fed. Mr. Speaker, this is the time that every Ghanaian is suffering.
While staying in Parliament, Deputy Majority Leader Alexander Afenyo-Marking announced that Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta had accepted to withdraw the allocation and channel same to roads and communications.
With all the concerns raised, we will not shut our eyes to them. I will therefore, Mr. Speaker, end here by inviting this House to patiently wait for the Finance Minister to make a statement. Mr. Speaker, having listened to ourselves on this 80 million cities, Mr. Speaker, it's our proposal to the Finance Minister, which proposal he is not opposed to, that since many of us file questions on roads, we, for the time being, Mr. Speaker, without letting this affect appropriation, Mr. Speaker, Finance Minister is in agreement that that this 80 million will find space in communication and roads. Mr. Speaker, that is going to be, yes. Mr. Speaker, yes. Mr. Speaker, that's the beauty of democracy.
Meanwhile, the 2.5% VAT rate increment has been passed by Parliament despite resistance from the minority. While still on the subject, pressure group Justice for Ghana is demanding an immediate return of all funds utilized towards the construction of the controversial National Cathedral. Salom Dramani Dramado speaks for the group.
NAPCO victims and national service personnel who have not been paid, while David Ajayi was paid 113 million upfront for no work done, immediately be paid from savings made by Parliament, stopping the 80 million budgeted for the cathedral. That the entire Ghana is not allowed to come to a standstill due to Ghana's labor union's threat of an indefinite strike action from next week. That the Parliament intervenes to avert the threat of teachers, doctors, nurses, and indeed every worker in all sectors staying home till government makes a U-turn. Ghanaians who are already suffering from the economic crisis are being threatened with further nuisance taxes, including VAT, which the president in the 90s implacably stood against. Government's haircut on investment, including an increase in VAT and removal of the e-levy threshold to cushion the poor, is resisted by Parliament on behalf of the Ghanaian people.
In our next story, traditional authorities at Abu-Baidoo are asking the Inspector General of Police to constitute a non-prejudiced committee to investigate the alleged killing of a young man by the police. The aggrieved residents want the committee to make public its findings and ensure those found culpable are punished. Divisional Chief of Abu-Baidoo, Togbeke, the 12th, says a police team fired into a crowd on December 9, 2020 during an operation in the community, killing Bismarck Charles Opari.
According to reports, a police team stormed the Abu-Baidoo community about 11 p.m. on 9 December 2022 for an operation. The chiefs narrated that 29-year-old Bismarck Charles Opari, a taxi driver, was allegedly shot and killed during the operation. Sources indicated that the police team was not from the Volta North Regional Command, but from the intelligence unit of the Volta Regional Command, hence operated out of their jurisdiction. Addressing the press, the divisional chief of Abu-Baidoo, Togbeke the 12th, said the police officers were unprofessional in the discharge of their duties.
The unprofessional manner in which the police officers conducted themselves resulted in the shooting and death of Bismarck, who authorized the operation to be carried out at that hour, who was the leader of the operation team, who authorized the release of the vehicles and the weapons used, who are the officers involved, who is their immediate superior in whole, to whom have they reported the outcome of the operation to, and where the booties are. 7. Why the officers concerned have to shoot live bullets into a group of armless civilians, resulting in loss of human life. Having gunned down the unarmed innocent taxi driver, the police whisked off to an unknown destination.
He therefore implored the police hierarchy to launch an investigation into the unfortunate incident and bring the perpetrators to book.
In view of the above questions and observations, we, the chiefs, elders, and citizens of Abu-Baidoo, urgently request
the IGP to set up a non-prejudice committee to conduct an in-depth investigations into the cause of the operation leading to the murder of one of our up-and-coming sons. The report, which hopefully should be made within 2 weeks from the date of this release, that is Wednesday, 21st, 2022, should be made public, especially to the chiefs and elders and families of the victim. Those found culpable should be dealt with accordingly. Above all, adequate compensation be given to the bereaved family.
The chiefs and residents stressed that they would not condone wrongdoing but would seek fairness and justice for peace to prevail in their community. Fred Kwame Asari, Joy News, Bivegbe.
Now, 7 more districts in the Ashanti region have been invaded by illegal miners despite increased efforts to stop the menace. Out of the 43 districts in the region, 25 are now afflicted by galamsey. The Regional Security Council has increased surveillance to prevent the threat from spreading to new places. Nanaya Ojima filed this report.
A visit of the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, John Abu-Baidoo, to some affected areas in the Amansia district in September this year revealed deep pits opened all over a vast area. The phenomenon, despite renewed operations to stop illegal miners, has continued with more acres of land being destroyed. Some miners sit in rivers and water bodies to perpetrate the illegality. Ashanti Regional Minister Simon Osei-Mensah addressed a meeting of the Regional Coordinating Council.
The galamsey fight in the region has not yet been won and still is rather expanding. Previously, we could count about 18 districts in the Ashanti region where galamsey is practiced. Unfortunately, now the number has gone up to 25 districts out of the 43. And we need to take this one seriously.
Already, the Regional Coordinating Council, through its enhanced surveillance, has stopped the spread of the activity to the Efija-Kwabre district. The effort to fight the menace is, however, hindered by financing.
Sometimes people don't know that water issues are also security issues. So what we need to do is to take drastic measures to ensure that we can minimize the issues of galamsey menace within the region. I've always suggested that on the river bodies, I think we can take the fight from the source of the river up to where it either joins the sea or the confluence of another river body. Constant fracturing of these people, that will help solve the problem. Where sometimes you have logistical problems. At times you need even money, you want the military to move, you don't have the resources to support the military. So these are all challenges that we are facing. But I know the ministry is doing its best. Quite often they also send people from Accra to also come and work on them. We will do our best to bring the menace down.
Meanwhile, the minister has endorsed the Asante-Hene's call to hold traditional authorities accountable for illegal mining in their jurisdictions.
But most importantly, the statement by Otumfuo Osei-Tutu II, the Asante-Hene recently, during the Regional House of Chief meeting for which I attended, is a strong signal to all the chiefs, and if well implemented, it will help bring the menace down significantly, because there's no area where we don't have a chief. And then Otumfuo is also saying that if we find galamsey in your area, it means you are part. So Otumfuo invite you to Menja and then question you, interrogate you about why you still have galamsey in your area. Because as he put it, if somebody had come to encroach on your land, definitely you have reported the case. So if you find illegal miners on your land, why don't you report?
The Ashanti Regional Coordinating Council is strategizing to improve performance in the coming year. For Joy News, Nanaya Ojima, Kumasi.
It's a wrap for the news. Stay with us. Up next, the news review, as we are joined by Bridget Jogbenuku. Welcome back, and we're joined by Bridget Jogbenuku for our news review this morning. Bridget, good to have you for another morning. Thursday is here. Thank you for making the time to join us.
Good morning, Ben, and thank you for having me again. It's, well, a good morning. We must thank God for...
Why the pause before it's good morning, the way you dragged it?
I was looking for a better word than good. How about that?
So it's an excellent morning, is it?
Yeah, it's another morning. As they say, this is the day the Lord has made. We are blessed to be awake, to be in good health. Yes, we must thank God. My friend Reverend Ekua sends us these short devotionals every morning. And she says, just thank God for your blessings. We look back at what is not going well, but it's always good to look at what is going well. And you'll find that they probably outnumber what is not. So we thank God for that.
It said that we should count our blessings and name them one by one.
Name them one by one.
Yeah.
It indeed will surprise you that you do have a lot going for you.
Yes.
You do have a lot going for you.
Yes.
That is good.
Yeah. Anyway, so like we usually do, it's been another few weeks since we had an interaction. I usually like to pinpoint what is going on for the guests who join us on the news review. I'd like to come to you as well. You can talk about your business, but I'd like to know what life is like for you. For example, as you prepare for Christmas, I'm looking at the producer price inflation, for example, where wholesale prices of goods and services for November increased to 78.1%. Those who produce poultry are saying, and the few that are left are saying even in terms of feed for the chickens and all of that, the price of that has shot up. So the price of poultry, as we know it, has also shot up. I think the last time I checked by about 75%. How are you preparing for this Christmas? What is it looking like for you? And maybe just to add to that, because I know you'll probably want to take a swipe at this. We've heard from the Domahene, and he has actually spoken about the National Cathedral, which now the budget for which has been withdrawn from Parliament. Hopefully it will go into infrastructure like roads. But I found it interesting, the defense that was raised about why we need the cathedral. The president himself said at a point that it was to thank God in recent times for saving us from civil war. The point has been made that...
He said it will help us pray.
I mean, among other things,
wars.
Yes, so to speak.
To avert
civil wars, yes. And then mention has been made as well that we serve God, and so this is only a good thing to do among so many other things that have been pointed out. But like the Domahene said, he said for him, his people are saying a cathedral is not a bad idea, but not now and not with the resources that we have. And the 80 million now has been poo-pooed by the Committee of Parliament and the plenary as well. Quick reactions to these two stories, if you may.
Well, Ben, ever since this idea of the cathedral came up, you can go to my Facebook account, my Facebook wall, and search for the cathedral. And I have never, ever from the beginning said that it's a good idea. Now that I have this platform, let me commend the Domahene and also mention that, frankly, most times or all the times that I have gone on a campaign trip there and have visited them, they have been, he and his chiefs have been one group of the most respectful chiefs who receive me with a lot of respect. And I don't I mean, I say this in all humility, but they make time, they prepare to receive you with a lot of respect. And when one gives you that respect, you must give that back. And I say this because this Domahine's name has come up also in the issue. I wonder why you are showing earth moving equipment. But it's also come up in the issue of Galamsey and how he has chosen to deal with it, and so on and so forth. This is obviously a level-headed leader, a wise leader who, has genuine concern for his people, first of all, and for Ghana and Ghanaians, first and foremost, before his image or his ego. And yes, I agree with him when he says about the cathedral that yes, it's good that we have one. Oh, you're showing me the site of the cathedral.
It is, actually. I was just waiting for you to finish when he spoke about earth moving.
But it's huge. It could be a mining pit. You know, I worked in the mines, so
This could actually be a stadium. That's just how big it is.
Yeah, okay. It's right next door to my favorite hangout place, which is the Accra Lawn Tennis Club. So, except that the gate is always closed, so you don't see what's going on behind there, as should be with the construction site anyway. But yes, he this is a true leader who has concern for his people and is saying there are other infrastructural demands. I mean, not far from the cathedral is the site of the La General Hospital that was razed down and has not been rebuilt. Not a block of stone has been put in place for the rebuilding. If people of La and Osu and all, and even Teshi and maybe even Accra are unwell, they have to travel to Ridge now, which is the closest, or police hospital. But this was walking distance. It's been raised down under the guise of being rebuilt. There's actually a billboard or an advert somewhere near Dankwa Circle that is saying, "Thank you, Mr. President, for rebuilding La Hospital," when nothing has been done. And yet we are voting so much money. And what we seem to think is this, that if we do anything in the name of God, then it's the right thing to do. Yes, it's good to do things. I'm a Christian. It's good to do things in the name of God. But this is not true to God. And we all know it, including those who are pushing for the building. It is not true. There have been so many untruths about it. Typical or representative of this is how this 80 million has just been put in some portion of the budget when we were told from the beginning that it wasn't going to be supported by government budgets. It was going to be supported by churches and individuals. If you ask me, I know that.
But they'll quickly remind you that they said there would be seed money and there was no cap on what seed money would be. Yesterday, I was interacting with Deputy Energy Minister Andrew Ejapamesa, and I brought that up. And he made that point. There was no real cap when seed money was mentioned, though initially 25 million was given for this purpose. And now 25 million has become repeated cycles of pumping taxpayers' money into this enterprise.
Because of somebody's dream and somebody's supposed promise to God. It's unfair to the people of Ghana. And listen, Ghanaians are not only made up of Christians. We have Christians, we have Muslims, we have people of other faiths. And any religious science, if you like, or spiritual science, if you want to call it that, writes on values of truth, integrity. Why are we doing this? So we are trying to build something for somebody's ego in the name of God. God is the greatest. And for me, what I said about this cathedral from the beginning is, let's wait and see if it will be built. It's interesting. David in the Bible is called, God is called the God of David. And David wanted to build a cathedral to the glory of God, and a cathedral, a temple. And God told him, no, you're not the one to build it. You will not build the temple. I think that our president should listen. There are so many things. I mean, you cannot be trying to please God when your people are suffering. Ghanaians are suffering, you know. And maybe we felt a little bit of relief, but I'll tell you, maybe the relief has come for people like you and I, middle class. It hasn't come for the people down there. You know, we are still fighting with transport owners about reducing the GPRTU, about reducing transport prices. At a time like this, when people would like to go to their hometown for Christmas, I am sure there are still people around wondering how they are going to make it.
Right. So interesting points you make. Before you tell me how you're preparing for Christmas, and then we get into the papers, just a final bit on the cathedral. You say we've expended so much, which we have. The project has stalled in a way because of a lack of finances. It is clear. But we've pumped almost 400 million Ghana cedis into the project. Some would also say, if we leave it now, what happens to what we've pumped into the project? Some have said we should turn it into an academic institution, some university, for example, for teaching governance and other things. What are the alternatives that we can use it for?
Well, that's a good idea. They want to build a new conference center.
They actually want to refurbish it.
They want to refurbish a new conference center whilst doing this right next door. I mean, I've thought of it, come to think of it, when these things are finished, that road will be in more trouble when there are events. You know, they'll probably close that road to Osu Cemetery. But Ben, I actually haven't thought of the alternative for it. If they want to use it for a university, it's a good idea. But whatever is going to be used in there must be highly income generating to be able to cover the cost of what has already been pumped in. The thing is, we don't need that right now. There are deep needs. I mean, go to Kolebu. You go and they tell you about even simple diagnostic equipment. They don't have. We don't. All this money we are pumping in, we could have sent it to those places. Our education system, look at us. The IMF is going to come and the World Bank is going to come with us to review the free SHS because it hasn't gone right. This is the free SHS that we said it was perfect and everything was right and we were never going to review it. Now we are going to have to review it. There is money we are pumping into the ground, literally, when we should be spending it on people, the people of this country. So let's look at areas where we can pump this into the lives of the people, the livelihoods of the people that will be productive. Indeed, a university is productive, but lower down, how many more people will benefit than free SHS graduates? So let's think about that and put it in those places, the productive sector, you know, because frankly, the productive sector of Ghana is made up a lot, I mean, it's predominantly agric-based. Can you imagine if we pumped this money into one district, one factory, if you like, if I can use this initiative, you know, into one district, one factory, how many jobs it will create for the people in the communities, and therefore how much tax tax revenue can be got from that. So let's stop the ego inflation projects. You know, projects just to leave a legacy, if you like. It's not for us, or it's not time for that. A legacy can also be planted in the hearts of the people and in the goodwill of the people. If someone is able to say, that all my children were educated during your era very well, not as hungry students in a boarding school or students too many so in a boarding school so that the infrastructure, they don't have beds, they don't have chairs and tables. You know, that is more important than in a structure, honestly.
Right. Let's, even as we talk Christmas, the Daily Graphic has some thoughts to share. Despite Ministry of Food and Agriculture's intervention, food prices still high, building strong distribution channels advocated. And I know you're passionate about this space, especially because of your area of enterprise. So let me just state that story and we'll reflect on that. But before that, other stories in here. Economy posts slow growth in third quarter. Conduct stress test on pension funds, think tank to government. And of course, that has to do with the debt exchange situation. So let's start with the first one. Cost more than anything else could deny some households access to staple and essential food items during the Yuletide. Despite the intervention by the Ministry of Food and Agriculture to bring some food items from the farm gates to its head office and make them more accessible to the people, the reduction in fuel prices at the pumps, as well as the cedi gaining strength against the dollar, prices of food items remain largely high, only a few days to Christmas. Although the heavy vehicular and human traffic that is characteristic around this time is evident, and there is a lot of human movement at the various markets in Accra, many traders are complaining of low patronage of their wares. This has resulted in some of them adopting sales strategies to attract customers. For instance, instead of wholesale, many are adopting the retail strategy to sell their various items. Others are making sure that they are able to spot potential buyers from a distance and convince them to their shops to patronize their items. Also, some are using music to attract potential buyers. Some traders who interacted with the Daily Graphic team indicated that the prices of food items quadrupled in late November when the cedi was about 15 Ghana cedis to $1. A year ago, a carton of imported chicken was 150 cedis, and now it is being sold for 340 cedis. Gizzard, which was 12 Ghana cedis, is now 31 Ghana cedis. A retailer who gave a name as Amwawaje told the Daily Graphic at the Makula market. How do you feel? First of all, you sell items as well. How has all of that impacted you, and have your prices shot up by that much on the back of the latest developments, food prices?
Yes, it's true. Prices have shot up. Prices shot up and continue to, double in November. And they are not about to come down now because people, when you ask, they say we stocked up at that high price and we need to get rid of our stock. Now, we all know that also at Christmas, prices go high. Traders are trying to maximize their profits at Christmas. Christmas time, I'm sure if you ask the statistical service, they will tell you that prices go through the roof because there's more money chasing the goods. So I think the traders just have that practice. They are thinking it's Christmas time, let's maximize our profits. We have old stock we bought at high prices. We need to get rid of them. So that is what is happening. Ministry of Agric did that one-time market. We all knew it wasn't sustainable. They insisted on doing it and proving us wrong that food prices were high. Well, they did it for 2 days. So food prices were not high for 2 days. Frankly, so many variables. The Transport Union is not willing to reduce prices because fuel prices have come down. They have a bit. For me, for example, the truck that brings my product has reduced it by a minimal amount. It went up so high, but they've reduced it by a minimal amount. And I do understand. The sad thing is that cost will be passed on to the consumer. So yes, food prices will remain high, possibly till after the Christmas, and hopefully they'll start to reduce it after the Christmas. It's just practice, really. Things get expensive around Christmas. If you're talking compared to the beginning of the year, yes. When I told someone the price of my palm and my jomi, they were shocked that it had almost tripled. And I said to them, I said, you know, the price was changing gradually. And I think I kept telling you the price on this program. It kept changing gradually. And it's just what it is. For my products, for the palm, still, it's lean. The season hasn't come out yet. I think it had something to do with the rains and how late the rains came and how long they lasted.
Right.
In certain regions, like the eastern region, they are starting to get palm fruit. In the Volta region, in the Afadaso South districts and surrounding areas, the fruits are not ripening yet. In fact, I have a palm tree in my backyard, and I keep looking at it. It's fruited, but it's not ripened. So the prices will just remain high. It has nothing to do with the dollar. It has nothing to do with inflation, really. Well, yes, it might have something to do with inflation, but it has a lot to do with the season and how funny it's been this year. I say our sins are too many. We should, reform. I'll give you something very basic you must look out for. You know our local mangoes, the small ones.
Right.
The fruit around this time. Go out there and see how many of our local mangoes have fruits on them. None. None. So it's a difficult place we are in. There is, it would be good, it would be nice for traders to say, we want to reduce prices now, but they have suffered, they have panicked. Here comes Christmas. They want to maximize their profits, and therefore their food prices will be high.
And of course, some of them will tell you that they purchased the items at a certain price when the dollar was high, and they can't afford to bring it down now. No one does business to lose. But let's get into other stories quickly. Economy posts slow growth in third quarter, and the economy recorded a slower growth of 2.9% between July and September this year compared with the same period last year. Provisional data from the Ghana Statistical Service have shown. In the same period last year, the growth in the real value, I beg your pardon, of goods and services as measured by the gross domestic product was 6.5% compared with the same period in 2020, the data indicated. The government statistician, Professor Samuel Kobna-Enim, who presented the quarterly GDP report in Accra yesterday, indicated the economy was now worth more than 44.29 billion Ghana cedis when measured in constant prices, that is real GDP, compared to the 43.10 billion economic worth last year. He said the report showed that non-oil GDP for the third quarter of the year grew by 3.6%, as against the 8.2% growth recorded in the same period in 2021. So that's the first bit. The second one, and that really interests me, conduct stress test on pension funds. Think tank to government. Now, the government has been urged to conduct a comprehensive stress test on the decision to include pension funds in the proposed domestic debt exchange program. The test should be conducted by the Ministry of Finance in collaboration with all stakeholders and debtors as part of best practices required to reveal the possible implications of including pension funds in the program. Contributing to the debate on the proposed involvement of pension funds in the debt exchange program, the Executive Director, Africa Center for Retirement Research, Abdallah Mashoud, said it seemed the government and the Ministry of Finance had not conducted any stress test to fully evaluate and appreciate severity of injury in the involvement of pension funds would inflict, on the pension system and ultimately the socio-economic well-being of Ghanaian workers and retirees. For you, having worked in the public space, the private space, as far as I know, what is your reflection on the bite of the debt exchange program, especially with a focus on pensions? And we know that a lot of the pension funds may have some reserves, but how long will those sustain? And apart from the major ones we know, how about the smaller ones? Will they survive a debt exchange program? And what could be the consequences on the pensioners? These are questions that have been asked. Your take?
Well, I don't know. I'm not one to, I don't know what will be the effect. I know that any person who's on pension or who is just retiring is panicking. And what government must do is come out quickly to say in clear words, in plain words, how this debt exchange program or haircut or whatever we wish to call it is going to affect pensioners. I have a sister who has just turned 60 and about to retire. She's worked for 40, about 40 years, and contributed to her social security, and is wondering what is going to happen to my pensions. So yes, not just conduct a stress test, but tell us, because I had an interaction with some people, some officials from the Social Security, from SNIT, and I asked them, how does this debt exchange affect us? And they said, no, it doesn't. So I said, okay, I don't know. I mean, they are the experts. They are in the industry. But they must all come out, including the second tier and the Social Security themselves, and tell us clearly how it affects us. Because pensioners especially are panicking. They say to us that, well, as an individual, the debt exchange will not affect you, or the interest payments and how it's been tiered and how it's been arranged will not affect you. But I don't think that for our Social Security and our pensions, we are there. Whilst we have contributed as individuals, I am sure that the investments these institutions have been made as corporate institutions. So in the end, we are likely to be affected. And I don't know.
And even we may say that individually, maybe at some point, there will not be a direct reflection on us, but moving forward, what would be the impact on the funds accrued over time with these, pension funds? What could that mean for other years to come and other contributors? I guess that is a question that maybe we're not looking at. What could be the impact?
Indeed, I think that someone looked at it even from the point of insurance and asked the question, do I pay my insurance premium this year? And if I do get into an accident, do I get paid? Will I get paid for it? Will I get my insurance for it? So it affects all these areas. And maybe the insurance companies and agencies and the tier 2 pension funds must come out and tell us in truth what is going to happen, because there is no reason to hide the fact, and then when we are ready to claim or to be paid, then you start telling us, you can, with a certain estimate or a certain hope of getting a certain quantity of money, then we start being told that, you remember, because of the debt exchange, it's not so much anymore. Tell us now, hit us with it now, and let's deal with it and move on. Right. I don't believe that the pension funds should sit back and wait for government to conduct that stress test. They should know. They ought to know what is going to happen to the funds of their investors, if you like.
Let's wrap in the next 2 minutes with these stories. So the Daily Guide newspaper apologized for election petition drama, NPP tells NDC, and that came up as the General Secretary interacted, that is John Kodia Frimpong interacted with Ghanaians generally and the press, and some took him on what he had to say. Then there's also producer price inflation, like I was saying, inches up to 78.1%, and 96% of Ghanaian adults have access to financial services. That's according to a survey. The Business Finder, financial services, 95% access achieved, like I just mentioned. And the Court of Appeal dismisses TI Microfinance's challenge against license revocation. Finally, the New Crusading Guide. Let's commend Akufo-Addo for reviving Ghana's economy. That's according to the MPP. And that also made mention of yesterday by John Kodia Frimpong. Any quick thoughts on these matters that we wrap with? Apologize for election petition drama, MPP tells NDC.
Well, and then what? Apologize? Yeah, let them apologize. And then what? Does it improve the lives of anybody? Does it change the fact that there was election petition? We've wasted time and poured water. That's, as they say, that ship sailed long ago. It's water on a duck's back, if you like. It's neither here nor there. This is just an ego trip of, yes, I won and yes, you lost, or you were wrong and I was right. It doesn't matter. It's too little, too late. It wasted everybody's time, but yeah, I don't see the point of an apology. What would it achieve?
And just a statistic, mention has been made that the Director General of SNIT himself made mention of this, and yesterday was re-echoed by one of the panelists on PM Express. 82% of Ghanaians contribute just about 150 Ghana cedis every month as pension. So you just imagine what this means. If it takes even the minutest of hits, you can tell what this is going to do to people. People are contributing as little as 150 cedis. What would that be worth in the next how many years when they pension off? These are things we should be thinking of. But Bridget, interesting times that we're in. Thank you so much for having joined the conversation. Any last words?
Oh, Ben, I wish you as merry a Christmas as you can have under the circumstances. Like you said from the beginning, count your blessings, enjoy your family, enjoy your friends. If you have any shows you can afford to, go and see them. Live in the moment.
It's interesting you make that point, Bridget, right before you go, because I have been doing exactly that. The times have been rough, but this year I've made time to. I saw my first, and I'm not promoting anyone, Uncle Ebo White play this year. I have attended, yes.
I beat you to that then.
You beat me to it.
Uncle Ebo White and I share a birthday.
I see. Okay, so nowadays when it's his birthday, I'll know that immediately. Bridget's birthday has also arrived.
Yes.
But you're spot on. We must make the most of the time while we're still here. Bridget, thank you so much for your time.
Enjoy the people around you. Enjoy the people around you.
Exactly.
I was saying to a friend the other day, you may not have money, but relationships are currency.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah. Relationships are currency. I'll keep that. Thank you for sharing those nuggets of wisdom, and thank you for joining us for the news review. Have a wonderful day, Bridget.
Thank you, Benny. You too.
All right. And that was Bridget Jogbanuku, former flag bearer of the PPP, joining us for the news review. But there's more coming your way. We have a whole lot in sports. And after that, look forward to our interaction one-on-one with Richard Ahiagba of the NPP. What will he have to say on the matter of the National Cathedral, the recent tide when it comes to the city, and more? Stay with us for that.
Good morning. Welcome to AM Sports here with me, Muftau Nabila Abla. We start from the Ghana Premier League, which made a return this week after the FIFA World Cup break. And after Hearts of Oak solitary win over Nsoatreman on Tuesday, Asante Kotoko responded on Wednesday, coming from a goal down to register a 2-1 victory over Brecum Chelsea on match day 9. The game, which took place at the Bawayara Sports Stadium, saw Eric Zeze draw the Porcupines parity, his first goal of the season for the club after Sapon gave Chelsea the lead before Stephen Mokwala netted the winner for Seydou Zebo's men.
Switch to the far side. That's good play from Emmanuel Sapon. Brecum Chelsea using the width of the field to an advantage. Poor cross. But, oh, that's the first goal! Classic goal from Brecum Chelsea from that faulty pass from Andrews Kojo Apao. And look at the way they go. Celebration galore. Brecum Chelsea shoot themselves into the lead.
Afo linking up very well there. The moment he gets the ball, he's just looking at that cross. But just look at that clearance. Not the best of clearance, but it falls for Sapon, and what a goal. Yeah, he started the move. Spreading play to the right side, Afo with that one-touch pass, and Essien quickly picking him up on the right, delivers in a wonderful cross. Here, Apple should be clearing his lines. It fell for Sapon, and what a hit.
And then he gets the ball as Kotoko comes forward. This looks good. It's Stephen Mokwala across the face of goal, and Kotoko are back in the game.
Yeah, Ifege with a pass. Beautiful pass here. And this is what Mokwala loves. Just cutting the ball back, and guess who was there in the right position at that time? Zeze.
Epic encounter between Asante Kotoko and Brecum Chelsea as center referee. George Vomawa gets us underway. Kotoko are playing from right to left. Brecum Chelsea will be getting ready to bring on some fresh limbs. Header is on, and that's the second goal. Oh, this was spot on from Stephen Mokwala.
It's a big header to beat Obin Setre, who is in tremendous form. Just look at the delivery here. Nobody marking Mokwala. The ball was just slightly behind him and manages to get the header on target to the corner. Just look at him. Amazing header. Setre can't stop that.
Zeze finds Lamptey, who gets the ball back. Lovely pass through! Oh! Straight from the copybook. Unfortunately, the movement was a bit too fast.
Yeah, we look at the goal again. It's a lovely pass from Zeze. Look at the finish. Just a little offside.
Now Kotoko come forward through the middle. This looks good. Brecum Chelsea seem to be in trouble. Blasted wide by Steve Mokwala. Threaded through pass nicely by Christopher Nete. The delivery was not the best. And
let's take a look at the full results of match day 9 in the Ghana Premier League. Gone by was Kumasi Asante Kotoko's 2-1 victory over Brecum Chelsea. That game happened on Wednesday, and Kotoko Royals, they also sat at home and lost 3-0 to Legon Cities. Bechemi United drew 0-0 against Tamale City. Kerala United drew 1-1 against Midiame SC at Camp Park. Dreams FC, without the services of their head coach Ignatius Osei Fosu, 1-2-0 against Kim Faisal. It was the assistant coach of the team, Winfred Dormon, who sat on the technical bench to secure them this win after the league took a break during the FIFA World Cup. Away from the Ghana Premier League, the Minister of Youth and Sports, Mr. Fat Usif, has revealed his outfit spent $5 million out of its budgeted $8.16 million for Ghana's participation in the group stages of the FIFA World Cup. Speaking on the floor of Parliament on Wednesday, Yusuf attributed the surplus to his outfit's prudent management of resources.
You may recall that prior to Ghana's participation to the World Cup, I informed this House that our estimated budget at the group stage was $8,166,200 United States dollars. Out of this estimated budget, Mr. Speaker, our total expenditure for the group stage participation amounted to 5,171,840 United States dollars. These expenditures covered appearance fee, per diem, flight arrangements, medicals, equipment, logistics, and hospitality. Mr. Speaker, the reason for the surplus of $3 million after our exit from the group stage is as a result of the ministry's prudent management of resources, as well as the ministry's decision to negotiate on qualification bonus for the next round instead of paying winning bonus per match. What this means is that in spite of our Black Star defeating South Korea in our second group match, we did not pay any winning bonuses to that win. However, we would have paid qualification bonus to the team had they been able to progress from the group stage of the World Cup, regardless of the results of our matches, the group matches. Mr. Speaker, we have adopted is aim at motivating the team to go all out and progress from one stage of a competition to the other, and also to ensure prudent management of resources.
After Ghana's last group game against Uruguay in the FIFA World Cup, head coach of the team, Abu-Baidoo, resigned immediately. Well, reports are that the Ghana Football Association and the Ministry of Youth and Sports have started discussions on who replaces Abu-Baidoo. Well, a former Chief Executive Officer of Kumasi Asante Kotoko, Herbert Mensah, has urged the Ghana Football Association to raise the bar in their search for a new head coach of the Black Stars. That is after Abu-Baidoo left the team following Ghana's abysmal performance at the Mundial. Herbert has been speaking exclusively to Joy Sports.
I see some people within the FA saying, we didn't choose the right coach, or he was the wrong coach. But you chose the coach. What was the criteria? What were you hoping? What was the background experience? What was the CV? What is exactly that did you want to achieve? And there are others who are saying, oh, it is okay, we will try again next time. You see, so all three responses in terms of where you're going are peculiar to me. I really hope at some point we get an FA that sets the bar, the target so high, that like countries like Saudi and Iran, like Morocco, with a wonderful local coach. He was a great local coach. What he had done, achieved that we did, you could see the players that bought into it, who understood modern football. And I was watching him the other day on a Zoom conference call where Arteta was taking it from Arsenal, analyzing a rare victory for Arsenal over Man City. And he was learning, his student of the game, of third-party interest. They don't make accusations. Whether they're true or whether they're false, the critical issue is that we don't have them. Then we actually decide that, is the quality of coach that we choose good enough to coach Morocco or Egypt or Tunisia or any of the countries? If the question is yes, then you know that you're on the right track. If you lower the bar, then you can't complain, if that's where you see Ghana to be. But believe me, I think the 32 million Ghanaians, or however many we are, see ourselves as better than that. After a very poor AFCON, after a bad match with South Africa, after a good, lucky victory over Nigeria, after a very poor preparation series of matches leading into the World Cup, and then getting into the World Cup where maybe people felt that different time, different circumstances, different technical bench, maybe we could have beaten Portugal. Maybe we could have done better in other particular matches. The fact of the matter is that we don't. And when the big test came against Uruguay, we were found wanting technically and in other areas, in other ways. So the future, I think we need to be sad. We need to be proud of our players because that's who we've got. We really have to. But I think internally, the FA has got to look at itself first and foremost rather than the players.
It hasn't been a good year in terms of Ghana's participation in major competitions. The Black Stars exited the African Cup of Nations 2021 without a single victory. The Black Stars again performed woefully in the just ended FIFA World Cup. Other national teams, especially the Black Starlets, Black Satellites, Black Maidens, Black Princesses and Black Queens have all struggled. But up next is an assignment for the Black Galaxies, who will depart Accra for Egypt on Saturday to continue their preparations for the Championship of the African Nations in Algeria next month. That competition starts on January 13. The team has been camping at Ghana Soccer Center of Excellence at Pram Pram for the past 2 weeks as part of the build-up to the Continental Showcase. The team will play a number of high-profile international friendlies during their stay in Egypt in readiness for the tournament, which starts on Friday, 13th January 2023. The Black Galaxies, they are in a group that has Sudan, Madagascar, and Morocco. They will open their campaign against Madagascar on January 14 before coming up against. To other stories, where former Ghana international Prince Tego has been remanded in police custody until January 4, 2023 for alleged defrauding of Black Stars assistant coach George Boateng of about $40,000 by an Accra High Court. According to the case briefly presented to the court by the prosecutor, George Boateng said he wanted to buy 4x4 Lexus and Prince Tego offered to import the car for $40,000. George Boateng made the said amount paid the said amount to Prince Tego on January 8, 2021, which he acknowledged he received for in a telephone conversation. Tego promised to deliver the vehicle toward March ending, but he failed to fulfill the promise. He then called Boateng to plead for an additional 2 weeks to deliver the obligation, but never did again. Boateng came down to Ghana on April 27 to receive the vehicle, but it was still not delivered. Tego told Boateng he couldn't honor the promise because he used the money to take care of an urgent personal issue. This is how we wrap up AM Sports here with me, Muftau Nabila Abla. We appreciate your company. The show continues right after this round of messages.
The minority leader has forgotten. I was in an aircraft with him someday, very, very late. And when the aircraft was breaking through the clouds, the turbulence was so much that everybody was shouting, "Oh God, oh Jesus, oh God, oh Allah." That's what was happening. He was there. He himself was shouting. Mr. Speaker, when soldiers are going to war and they are about to go and fight, those who are Christians go on their knees to pray to God, and those who are Muslims go on their knees and bow down to pray to Allah. Mr. Speaker, there is nothing more important to us as human beings to believe that there's somebody out there who created us. Is this budget, how much is captured in this budget? And we say that we should spend 80 million cedis on God, and people have a problem with it. I don't. Me and my family, the members on this side don't. And I want the Christian community to know from today that we don't.
This project is estimated to cost $382 million. Mr. Speaker, so far, the amount expended is 339 million Ghana cedis, not dollars. And the last speaker was saying that we have spent more than 30% as envisaged in the construction document. Mr. Speaker, 339 million Ghana cedis is nowhere near 10% of the project cost. So there is no overexpenditure in respect of the construction. Mr. Speaker, the National Cathedral is coming under the Monuments and Museums Board. Mr. Speaker, this is an edifice that will also provide us with the basic infrastructure for tourism as we expect our tourism potential to be harnessed. I want to end by also supporting the budget for this year's pilgrimage so that people from Ghana can also undertake this pilgrimage this year under the budget which we are passing today. So, Mr. Speaker, it is good that our Muslim brothers are in support of this project because we need to equalize and get also something out of the Ghanaian expenditure for our Christian brothers also.
Start by putting it on record that as an elder of a church and as a Bible-believing Christian, we on this side are not against the building of a cathedral. And this is what the Bible we believe in says to us. In Luke 14:28-30, is there anyone here planning to build a new house, in this case a cathedral, who doesn't first sit down to figure the cost so you know if you can complete it? If you only get the foundation laid, and Mr. Speaker, the Bible is so telling. The Bible knew Ghana will have a president called Akufo-Addo. This is what he says. If you only get the foundation laid and then run out of money, you are going to look pretty foolish. Everyone passing by will poke fun at you. Yes. He started something he couldn't finish. This is the word of the Lord. Don't you look foolish because you have only laid a foundation and run out of money. Mr. Speaker, this is not some church, this is the Bible. You don't go to church. The Bible, in the Bible, God calls only one man, a man after his own heart. And that man was David, a man after God's own heart, a man that the finance minister aspires to be like in vain. But you see, Mr. Speaker, even when David wanted to build a temple for God, a man he called a man after his own heart. He said, you have blood on your hands, and for that sake, you cannot build me a temple. So he puts together the materials for the temple for his son. Mr. Speaker, I end by remembering the lost 8 citizens who lost their lives in the 2020 elections. There is blood on their hand. Can we build a temple for God? Thank you very much.
Then you come here to defend the indefensible. One day, all of us, including Mr. Speaker, will appear before the throne of the Almighty God. That day, Mr. Speaker, several questions will be posed to us. Many of us will run away because of what we are doing today. We have a duty to protect lives. We have a duty to ensure.
Welcome back on the AM show. Time now for us to dig into our big stories, and we're starting it from the standpoint of the ruling administration, the NPP. Well, we're joined for a one-on-one conversation, just as we did yesterday, but this time it is with the communications director of the party, Richard Ahiagba, who joins the conversation as we talk everything related to the current administration, the economy, the performance of the city, the National Cathedral, among other salient matters of concern. Mr. Ahiagba, a very good morning to you. Thank you for joining the conversation.
Thank you kindly.
I didn't hear your response.
No, I said thank you. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. I can hear you now. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year in advance.
Thank you, and many happy returns to you and your listeners and viewers.
Right. Let's just start off from the NPP as a party. Where would you place the NPP as a party administratively? So I'm talking about you've elected new officials and all of that. And recently there's been a lot of talk, especially in respect of the NDC's appointment of Johnson Esiodun Nketiah as party chairman, Fifi Kwete as General Secretary, among others. You held a press conference, you brought up a number of issues. We heard your party's CEO, John Kodia Frimpong, speak to some of the issues. Where would you say the MPP is currently when it comes to its administrative leadership?
Well, thank you very much. The New Patriotic Party is in itself recently gone through a process that the NDC also just finished over the weekend, and we've elected new leaders from the polling station all the way to the national level. Our national leadership, you've mentioned a few of them, they're led by Chairman Stephen Ayensuin team and the General Secretary, Justin Frimpong-Kudia. They have been putting together the party, making sure that we are prepared and ready for the election in 2024. So where we are now, the party is being retooled, positioned, and ready for the election. And I think that we're in a good place.
You're in a good place. Talk has also, we spoke to some analysts, political watchers, just a few days ago, asking them about the viability of the different candidates from the two parties, since both of you have basically led the country since the Fourth Republic. Their team, that is the NDC's team versus your team. And I've heard a lot of talk about that. Those we spoke to, academics among others, seem to suggest that the NDC's team is stronger than your team. How do you react to that?
Well, I mean, that's people's opinion. I don't see the basis for that comparison. There are two mutually exclusive political parties with different orientation and understanding, different approaches to political organization. The NDC organizes differently from how we organize. We appeal to Ghanaians more broadly from a place of ideas. The NDC does so from a propagandist, populist, extremely populist standpoint. So our approach to election and to governance, our ideologies are entirely different. So trying to compare the two would be an exercise of wanting to make apples look like oranges and compare them. There are no basis to do that comparison. But what is true, we can assess, is that when you look at the NDC leadership, which they just gone through putting in place, you'll see a crop of leaders whose outlook is brash, whose demeanor seem excessively hard in terms of their approach to politics. That roughness to the team they put in place is probably what people are looking at and saying that when you look at the demeanor of the MPP leadership, they are calmer, they are calculating, more strategic, and I think that is the comparison people are trying to do. But it's not a comparison of apples and apples, it's one of apples and oranges. I don't think that is a serious comparison that amounts to anything. But we can do it for political exercise.
Right. So you're suggesting that these academics, by the way, the likes of Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante, Dr. Alidu, among others, who have watched this space for decades, who know what these people can do, don't know what they're talking about. And again, you seem to suggest that the NDC operates on propaganda and others alone. Aren't you concerned? Because even if that were the case, propaganda, they have got so many terms from 1992 to 2000, then from 2008 to 2016. It would appear then that whatever it is they have up their sleeves does work for the Ghanaian voting public. Are you concerned?
Yeah, so certainly, let me be very clear. I'm in no way suggesting or casting a verdict on anybody's analysis. I'm only demonstrating a basis for comparison that I don't see.
Right.
To compare NDC leadership and MPP leadership, I don't see a scientific basis for that comparison. There's no equal measure for any results to say that on one side there is strong and the other is weak. What I want to say is that it's a good political exercise, but it's not a substantive exercise for which we want to engage more seriously. On the matter of the propaganda and whether or not it worked for the NDC, well, of course, they won elections, and so therefore It may have worked for them, but what the truth is that we have come to realize, which is the difference, if you like, in approach that we in the NPP are working to address and cure, is to properly understand the operation of the NDC. And I think that we've got our fingers on that now, because if you look at the election of my own brother, Fifi Kwete, whose history is a propaganda secretary of the NDC, tells us clearly what they are going to do. If you see the chairman,
which is what?
Sorry?
You say it tells clearly what they're going to do, which is what?
Which is they're just going to propagandize more and more and more. They're going to misrepresent the situation that we find ourselves in. They're going to concoct stories about what is it that is happening. They're not going to tell Ghanaians the truth. And in fact, they're not going to tell Ghanaians what they are capable of doing or what they will do. They will all be about blaming government and escalating situations in our country, trying to use violence and fear. That is going to be what they will do, because we know what my brother did as a propaganda secretary, much of which he has had to go to a vetting committee and recount. And so we know their approach. And what we are saying is that to counter what they offer, we are going to have to engage them. We're preparing ourselves to engage them in a battle of ideas, which we think that is the way forward for Ghana. I will invite Ghanaians to make a decision between the two, who has a superior proposition to help Ghana develop.
You speak about propagandizing, as you put it. But the question some would ask is, with everything that is going on, we've made some inroads, and we'll have ample time to discuss that. We've made some inroads as far as the currency fluctuations are concerned. Our currency over the last 2 days has lost some ground, but a lot of ground that has been gained. Fuel prices were really high. We have made inroads there as well. Yesterday, I was interacting with Andre Japama-Mensah, Member of Parliament for 2nd D, who said that sometime in January, between the 10th and the 12th, we'll get our first batch of refined oil product from the UAE, among others. But with everything that has happened on the economic level, on the level of leadership, governance, the calls for ministers to be cut down, the debt exchange, and the sort of angst that has stirred, would the opposition even need to engage in propaganda, looking at where we find ourselves, and also considering that you've done your two-term electoral cycle? You would have achieved that by 2024. Would they even need to do that?
Well, certainly we hope they don't have to do that. We hope they'll have to engage in a conversation to suggest to Ghanaians what is it they want to do. Ultimately, that's our hope, that let's have a conversation about what is it the two parties have to offer Ghanaians. And so clearly, that conversation, if they want to engage in that, then we think that we're going to come up tops in 2024. But even if they're not willing to do it, we'll force them to do it, because that's the only option in an election going forward, to make sure that Ghanaians are choosing based on the strength of each political party's ideas, and that's what we'll force them to do if they're not willing to do it. But on account of the relief that is coming, based on the reduction in the fuel prices, the strengthening of the cedi against the dollar, which all of us must be happy about, that for me is welcome news, and just tells us that indeed the government in all ways is committed to ensuring and has the responsibility to make sure that it improves conditions for Ghanaians. It's a welcome news, and I think it signals that long-term, the measures that government is putting in place would work, and then Ghanaians should continue to have confidence in this government. I am very happy about the proposition in the 2024 budget, which is focused on trying to invest in increasing Ghana's productive capacity. That helps us directly to ensure import substitution, or if you like, reduction of import and increase of domestic production capacity to export. That, for me, is good for Ghana in many, many ways, but primarily to strengthen the city and to help create employment opportunities for our young people. That is something that I think we should call on Ghanaians to support, to make sure that we improve conditions for Ghanaians and sustainably try to develop our economy. And I think that these are the conversations that we would like to have from the NDC to tell us their alternative to some of these proposals.
So tell me, it's interesting, you say, what does the NDC in opposition have to offer, assuming they are handed the reins of power? Let me put it back to you. What does the NPP, what exactly does the NPP have to offer? And I ask that from the standpoint of having seen, by and large, what this party wants to do, right from the start. 1D, 1F, one district, one factory. Recently, we've been talking about import substitution and cutting, funding to some people or businesses that are importing into the country items that we hope to produce. Recently, I've seen that tissue manufacturer, private enterprise, but being supported by government, as we spend about $100 million every year, $100 million to be specific, importing tissue, toilet roll, and other related products. So 1D, 1F, with its own gargantuan problems. Just to reiterate, in terms of poultry, Ghana has imported over the last 5 years, 2017 to 2021, the most in terms of chicken, more than Nigeria with over 206 million people, more than Ethiopia with over 115 million, more than Tanzania and South Africa with over 59 million people. Ghana with about 31 million people has done that. So 1D, 1F, tick, has it worked? Planting for food and jobs. Today's Daily Graphic says, despite the Ministry of Food and Agriculture's intervention, food prices still high, building strong distribution channels advocated. It talks about our systems and how they are not necessarily yielding the results that we want to see. Rearing for food and jobs, the chicken bit I spoke about can go there. Free SHS, and it has had its own issues. So I would put it back to you. What exactly does the NPP have to offer going into election 2024?
Thank you very much. In simple terms, what the NPP has to offer is to intensify these ideas you just talked about. We need to invest more in these ideas. You will agree with me that industrializing is not an overnight affair. But what you would also agree is that the proposals that you have just gone through are relevant, are the, if you like, are the absolute right prescriptions that anybody, if you are prescribing a solution to the problems that confronts Ghana today, these are the solutions you'll be prescribing for Ghana. So the essence I want to emphasize for you is that the NPP has the right prescriptions, has the right solutions to solve Ghana's problems. The only thing left is time, which is the reason why, as a party, we're insisting and appealing to Ghanaians to continue to have faith with us and give us more time, because to industrialize will not happen overnight. The sustained investment, you need to apply the policy and make sure you contain that policy, continue to invest in it, develop it, and eventually you arrive at a destination of industrialization. So everything you have mentioned right now is the right prescription for Ghana to be able to come out of the situation we're in now. What we need is a party, a government that can invest in these policy ideas and sustain those investments to be able to yield the results ultimately. You talked about the poultry import that we actually, as a smaller country compared to Nigeria, we import more. It tells you that Nigeria probably is investing.
Well, we have a bit of a challenge there with the feed. We'll try to work.
Has invested in its domestic.
Richard, you can go ahead.
Of poultry.
All right, so we'll try to get Richard Ahiagba back on the line, but he was just sharing with me some of his thoughts on what question I posed to him about what exactly the MPP had to offer or would have to offer in 2024. Mr. Ahiagba, I can hear you now. We lost you for a moment owing to a bad connection. Please go ahead. If you can hear me, Mr. Ahiagba, we lost you for a moment, so maybe you could just go back by some 20 seconds and continue from where you left off.
Yeah, so
well, it appears the feed is not friendly to us today. We'll still try. Do I hear Mr. Ahiagba in the background? Let's try one more time. And if Zoom is not going to be friendly, maybe we just might use a phone call. Yes, I can hear you, Mr. Ahiagba.
Talked about
Okay. So we'll try to do this some other way. At least there are alternatives. We'll try to reach him via the phone lines and see whether that will be more stable as he shares his thoughts with us. But in case you just joined us, we're having a conversation with the communications director of the NPP in the person of Richard Ahiagba. And we started talking about the leadership of the NDC and the NPP. And now we're narrowing it down, talking about what the NPP has to offer. Because a short while ago, Richard was telling me, look, the NDC, Fifi Fiavikwete, is a former propaganda secretary. And so, in essence, his being the general secretary of the party means nothing. They're just going to engage in propaganda. And we call them to the table to debate the issues, what the alternatives are, what they have to offer. And I put the question back to him that, look, your party has brought some flagship programs, 1D, 1F, planting for food and jobs, rearing for food and jobs, and all that. But where have they, left us? And that's the question he was answering. Mr. Ahiagba, can you hear me? Hello, Richard? I think we may have to just do the phone lines. But he was making the point that with all of these flagship programs, it won't be something that just happens within a short period. What I don't know is how short is and how long could be, how long we could be in this pipeline, so to speak. Of course, no country industrializes, by just flipping a coin or something of the sort. But after 6 years, we would see some tangibles. And for me, I'm concerned because when I look at our landscape, even the fact that we've come to this point and we're importing so much and incurring so much of a debt when it comes to these imports, or incurring so much when it comes to our import burden, is very problematic for me. We spend some $10.8 billion every year embarking on this. We probably wouldn't need to go to the IMF if we had that kind of money. Richard, welcome back.
Thank you.
Okay, I think it's clearer now. So you were making a point. Let's do that speedily. This is eaten into our time, the connection problems.
Forgive me. So all I was saying was that the ideas that you talked about, the 1D, 1F, the planting for food and jobs, the free SHS ideas you talked about, those are the right prescriptions for Ghana. If Ghana wants to develop, these are the ideas we need to be investing in. And the NPP has it right by investing in these ideas. And you asked that going forward, what the NPP has to offer, and I was trying to suggest to you, is to intensify investment and the monitoring of these policy ideas to ensure that they yield the result they have to yield in the long term. The goal is that these policies are not short-term policies. They are long-term policies designed to transform the economy from the present import dependency to export-driven economy. And this requires time, which is the reason why the NPP is appealing to Ghanaians to give it more time in 2024 to make sure that we consolidate and build these policies forward.
Don't you feel, because I am expecting as a citizen that 6 years down the line, you can't industrialize in 6 years. You can do a whole lot, but you can't industrialize. But there's the saying that there would be that writing on the wall. You would see signs. I look at all of these programs and I'm wondering where the signs will show up. So aren't you prescribing solutions amiss? And even if these were the right prescriptions, as you say, Mr. Ahiagba, Are we having the right implementation? Look at 1D1F. I'll go back to it. Some have said it's not cutting mustard. It's not delivering the goods as we would want to see it. And mind you, if we're still talking about import substitution the way we are, rice, tomatoes, we had a project bringing in seedlings from Burkina Faso that fizzled out. We're still importing so much. And I was just making the point that if we were self-sufficient, or at least had increased our self-dependence in these areas, we probably maybe wouldn't need $3 billion from the IMF, looking at our import burden every year, which is $10.8 billion. Do you think we're getting the implementation right?
Well, I think that's part of the democratic conversation that we must have to ensure that in all the discussions we have, including this ones, we are sharing ideas. And remember, minutes ago, I told you about how is it we want to prosecute the 2024 campaign is to be engaged with ideas and see that, okay, how do we ensure that we are getting maximum benefit out of these policies? Policies are not linear. Policies are messy. Policies are very cumbersome. It takes time, it takes engagement, and it takes constant monitoring and evaluation to get them to work. So the first thing you need is to have the policy idea right, which we have gotten. We know there is no arguing the fact that these policies are what we need as a country. Now, the conversation around how we implement them are absolutely a welcome conversation that we must have. But I think that the government is doing well. If you look, you're talking about the writings on the wall. If you look at coming into government in 2017 and promising that we want to do one district, one factory. Today, across this country, you have some number of factories that weren't there before. I think sum total from my last check, about 296 or so, including existing revamped factories, about 125 or so of very new factories have come up on the landscape. This is a writing on the wall that you said. And my suggestion to you earlier about the way forward for us is to try to increase investment and increase additional or incidental policy support for these small factories to ensure how they are given operating room. For example, is it the president's announcement in his economic address recently talking about efforts to curtail the import of certain commodities? Rice, for example, and poultry, and you mentioned poultry, about how is it we import exceedingly more than our friends in Nigeria. That tells you that we have opportunity there. And the president has hit the nail right on the head. Now, what is left is the pursuit of that policy view, which says that we must invest in domestic production of poultry to cut our import, which then saves us.
Sorry to interject, Richard. You're telling me that 6 years into your administration, with only 2 years left, with a flagship program as 1D1F, we're now coming to the realization, we're now having that epiphany that we need to produce so much more. Wasn't that the whole idea right from the start for 1D1F?
Yes, of course. I mean, I'm not suggesting by any stretch that we've just realized. I'm only telling you that the opportunity to to intensify local production capacity, the opportunity that tells you that this policy is right, is that now you can see that we import so much of poultry, which is not just a function of this government's regime, but it's been the way all throughout that our economy is import dependent. And the point I'm trying to make to you is that you have a government in the New Patriotic Party government led by Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo with the right policy prescription that suggests that if we cut import of poultry, for example, import of rice, for example, we have a domestic capacity to be able to produce, to augment the shortage that will be occasioned by the export curtailment, and then be able to then export within the sub-region and to be even across the world, to be able to then earn foreign exchange. So it is for me to emphasize for you that we have the policy ideas, And what we are needing and what we have done so far, this 6 years that you're referring to, is to put these factories in place. What we're going to need going forward is to continue to invest in them, to enhance their capacities, and to be able to increase production to meet the domestic demand and then possibly export as well.
In any business, and every country is like a large business, there are KPIs for people who work, and there are goals that are set. When you look at 1D1F, and after this I would let us move away from the flagship programs and talk about other matters, don't you think that we should have measurables? So here's what I mean. 1D1F, for example, you say you have 296 or so factories out there. Sometimes we've checked some of these factories and they've not panned out. In Wale Wale, in Sabelugu, watermelon processing, rice processing, and others. Some are not even, they've not even taken off. But there are factories that are working. Ekumfi, juice factory, among others. But let's look at the deliverables. So can this administration, can you give me this, that because of 1D1F, X% of our import bill is gone? And maybe why amount of cedis or dollars have been saved as a result of 1D1F? Those are tangibles everybody can relate to. Can you do that?
Well, thank you very much. One of my jobs is to help you get information. And so therefore, this information you've asked, I think is a critical information. I commend you that this is the line of inquiry that we must encourage. To try to hold government accountable, political parties accountable. So this information you are inquiring, I think I know where you can get the absolute answers for this. In addition to what you mentioned about checking some of the factories, that probably you may not have gotten the information you need, I will direct you to probably reach out, and if you need my help, I'll facilitate for you to speak with officials from Ministry of Trade and Industry. There's a deputy minister in charge of that and can provide you all the information you need as far as one district, one factory is concerned. But what I can tell you without a doubt from a party side is to say that the policy is right. The policy is consistent with the orientation of the new patriotic party, and we are committed as a party to support the government to ensure the implementation of this and ensure that it yields the absolute benefit that Ghanaians deserve.
Let's talk about other aspects of our economy. In recent times, we've seen the Ghana cedi do quite a whole lot on the international market, beating the American greenback and beating, hitting down the fluctuations against the Great British Pound and the American Euro. We've heard Mr. President speak on that as well, but the economists, practically all of them, the academics, the people in the business space have said, hold up, there are factors that result in this. We speculated initially. Speculation is now working in your favor. Don't get too excited. In fact, that wasn't just yesterday. We saw the former president, John Dramani Mahama, also post about the state of our economy. And he didn't mince words, according to him, saying that we're in a very bad place. When it comes to the cedi, we're still in December. How well are we faring? What has been done to bring to bear what we are seeing? And is this, more importantly, is this sustainable moving into next year?
Well, thank you very much. I think on the former president, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, talking about Ghana not being a good place or Ghana being in a bad place, I think I will have to agree with him, except that he wouldn't agree that the whole world is in a bad place. Ghana is in this place because the whole world is in a bad place. And that fact must be accepted if we have to have a conversation objectively going forward. So I think that we can resolve the former president's political comment that way. To say
so maybe to quote him properly, I was just looking for what he put forth. He said, tragic, exclamation mark. Ghana officially bankrupt. And of course, we've had to engage in a debt restructuring, debt exchange exercise. Now we're not going to meet our Eurobond requirements. the ratings agencies are downgrading us further into junk status. Is that something you can contest?
Well, that's not something I can contest, but can the former president contest that the world is in a bad place? Does he disagree that the world is in a place that is difficult right now, which is causing Ghana to be where we are now, to be in junk status or whatever it is he describes?
But even as the world is in a bad place, not all countries are on the same level. Others are doing, some are doing better than others. And not all of them are at junk status in credit ratings.
That's fine. That's fine. But then you must begin to have a conversation based on the right premise.
Right.
So if the world is in a bad place and Ghana is in a bad place, then you can link that, yes, Ghana wouldn't have been here, but for the situation the world is in. He must make that connection and then make his point. It is the beauty of argument and political conversation is to concede where you think you have to concede, but they refuse to concede that the world is hurting. I tell you right now, if you check, I think the last time I did, the IMF was talking about needing about 196 billion to be able to help poor countries to be able to come out of the devastation of COVID-19 and the impact of Russia-Ukraine war. Why is that the case? Because something has happened. So the NDC and the former president, respectfully, must begin to make these concessions. Otherwise, we are not having a truthful conversation. I think that you in the media must hold them accountable to come to the table with facts and appreciate where they must appreciate the realities of our time. And we are asking business communities to reduce their prices because something is changing in the business environment. So if something has changed in the global environment, necessitating the pain that we are going through, that must be considered. And we must make the NDC come to this conversation with that admission. Unless they do that, there will be this difficulty in trying to resolve the issues going forward. So clearly, Ghana is in this situation because there is a global hardship. That is the reality. So the commitment of this government, my brother, is to ensure that as much as possible, there is some relief within the policy remit of the government to make sure that Ghanaians get some respite. That is the absolute commitment of the government. And I think that the party is supporting the president and the government vigorously to be able to deliver that. You referenced earlier the press conference by the General Secretary of the party yesterday. The import of that is to assure Ghanaians that government is on the job, that whatever reliefs we are seeing today, government is happy about it because ultimately Ghanaians will get some break. And so we are convinced that in the long term, the city will gain its balance, and with the policies that are promoted in the budget for 2023 will help consolidate and perhaps strengthen the city's position long term, and Ghanaians will have the benefits for it.
Let's stay briefly on the economy. I'd like to find out from you, and shortly I'll also like to talk about the National Cathedral. And in fact, there's an interesting bit by the Domahene. We have the video. At some point, I'll see whether we can play it for you just to trigger that conversation. But talking about an IMF deal, what are the prospects going into next year? Because in that latest release by the Finance Ministry, for the first time, it was admitted that our debt was unsustainable for the very first time, and that both domestic debt and external debt is unsustainable. We also know that as far as the IMF is concerned, there is a precondition for a program to be accepted or for the delivery of a program. A country's debt must be sustainable. My question then is, between now and the first quarter of next year, of course, if we were to get a deal by January, that would be sweet. If not, and by March or any time after that, it could leave us on the ropes, basically. How sure are we that we're going to be able to get a program from the IMF when our debt still remains unsustainable?
Thank you very much. I think the debt sustainability analysis is to be able to figure out how we make our debt sustainable. And the result from the DSA suggests one of two things to do. And one of it is what we began experiencing with the Ministry of Finance announcing a debt exchange program aimed at trying to create room, fiscal room for government to adjust and manage our debt going forward. In addition to that, I guess I'll just veer briefly to the budget, where you saw the minister in the 2023 budget suggest some very severe cuts. Look at a 30% cut to central government expense, some other 13 incidental cuts that were proposed, including the use of fuel by government officials, the use of vehicles, and I think a ban on purchase of new vehicles in 2024 along those lines.
We appear to have lost the feed to Richard once more. We'll just wait patiently as he tries to reconnect with us. But I was asking him about the prospects of an IMF deal, especially as our debt remains unsustainable. Mr. Ahiagwa, can you hear me now? If you can, please go ahead.
Yes, I can hear you.
Please go ahead.
Yes. Yeah, so I don't know where you lost me, but I was
we lost you for just about some 10 seconds, no more.
Okay, thank you much. And so the government is doing a great deal of adjustments fiscally to make sure that our debts gets back on track. The estimation now is probably by 2028 to bring our debt to GDP ratio to about 55% or so. That is something, I guess, that we all have to work hard toward, and government really is putting its expense in the right order to make sure that nothing puts it out of balance. So the external debt, I think you heard also the minister made an announcement of suspending our payments pending negotiations to arrive at some amicable proposition between the two parties to figure out how we deal with our debt going forward. So I think that our debts will be brought to a sustainable level long term. But for the IMF program, I think we've crossed the first hurdle of having a broad agreement at the staff level to say that, yes, the IMF is committed to giving Ghana the needed support. Oftentimes, people will cite the $3 billion as the reason we're going there. That's not necessarily the only import of the IMF deal that we seek. It's also, to a large extent, to give the market, signal to the market a confidence that Ghana is committed to certain fiscal measures to ensure that its debt is brought to sustainable levels to be able to continue to engage in development programs, and that if that requires investors coming into the country, they know with the support of the IMF, the commitments we have in terms of fiscal policy will be sustained, and therefore they can have confidence and engage in business in Ghana. Right. So in broad terms, I think that our debt situation will be resolved. What I think that we are appealing to Ghanaians as a party in support of our government is to say that let's support the government. The debt exchange program that is announced, I know there are some reservation from Labour. I think from my understanding and a briefing on the matter, there's a full assurance that pensions will not suffer in ways where when people need their pension, they won't have it. You know about the financial, the stability fund that has been established to be able to provide liquidity support to the banks and to all these schemes who are part of the debt exchange to be able to take care of their liabilities when they fall due. So there isn't anything that anybody is going to lose in a sense of the word, but it's just a temporal, period, especially in 2023, where there is zero payment of interest, only purposely to create fiscal room for government to adjust and to bring its debts into alignment. I think that is something Ghanaians should support and ensure that the government is able to achieve that end.
Right before we get into the National Cathedral, I want us to clear the bit about your party's leadership. Just because you brought in the former president, let me also add, Justin, I often, correct me, I thought his name was Justin Kodua Frimpong, but, made to be JFK. Or is it Justin Frimpong Kodua? Is that the original name? Because I've seen two versions. Which is it?
Yeah, I don't think he's opposed to any rendition of it.
Okay.
But
right.
I think, because JFK, so maybe if you arrange it so it ends up being JFK, I think he'll be happy about it.
All right, Justin Frimpong Kodua. Right. He makes mention of the fact that the party, the NDC, and the former president ought to apologize to Ghanaians on the back of the tape by Asiedun Ketia and all of that. I was interacting earlier this morning with PPP's former flag bearer, Bridget Dogbanuku. I posed the question to her, and she asked, to what end? I'll put that question to you as well. He apologizes, and then what? How does that add anything to anything else? We went through that stint. Your party has gone past that. You're in leadership. That doesn't add to our economy. It doesn't change anything. So give us some better understanding on why the party wants the NDC, the former president specifically, to apologize.
Well, the simplest answer to your question is why you would want somebody who offended you to say, I'm sorry. It signals regret. It signals remorse that I will not repeat the same thing. That is critical. It tells us that we can have confidence in the integrity of the NDC. What they did, the magnitude of what it did is not evident to the eye because somehow the good forces of nature saved us from the potential catastrophe that would have launched us into. We probably won't be here had this situation or the situation created by the NDC telling its supporters to go in the streets and jubilate because to them, they think they had won the election. Imagine a confrontation between NDC supporters who are claiming they have won and NPP supporters who know we have won in the streets. Where would that have left Ghana? That catastrophe was avoided, but we shouldn't take it for granted. Now, if the NDC doesn't come out to apologize for this, they will feel encouraged. They will feel emboldened by that adverse behavior and want to repeat it again. That's why it's significant. So it will be on record. Posterity will judge that NDC misbehaved in an election where they knew they lost, but then posited to their supporters to go out and jubilate, and now was found out through their own confessions that, yes, we lost the election, and because they apologized for it, it will never happen in their history, and will remind them that beware of what you did before and what you apologized for, and don't go back and do it. And if they came to apologize and then subsequently behave that way, then we can say with confidence that the NDC is not a party to be trusted. The NDC is not
Are you presupposing that if in the next election some things come up and they go down the same route, it would mean that they are not being honest? And let me just add this. So does that presuppose that you want some sort of precedent to be set so that for some of these infractions, so to speak, you would want people to apologize? In 2012, you had your own election petition. It failed in court, whatever the margins may be, 5-4. But the court did not side with you. Did you come out and apologize to Ghanaians for that? Was that required?
Thank you. So the apology is not in relation to going to court. It's in relation to the false pretenses under which they went to court. They went to court with zero evidence, right? So that's what we're saying. So the apology is for public morality to record that the NDC misbehaved and came to apologize. And so that is not a behavior any political party should engage in, that you go to court only if you have evidence. And that if tomorrow any political party is thinking about doing the same thing, they would know and learn from the public example of the NDC that that is not the way we want to conduct politics in our country. And most especially, and you would note that the former president,
hello, Richard?
Knowing very well that he had no evidence to go to. Yes, please, can you hear me?
I can hear you, go ahead.
Sorry about that. So knowing very well they have no evidence to go to court, and the court saw that they had no evidence and ruled unanimously to reject the no evidence case they brought to court went about assassinating the character of the court, calling them unanimous FC, which was the right decision. Absolutely. Look, if today we have a record from the Supreme Court that's actually ruled on this election 2021 petition by the NDC to say that, oh, it was a 2-3 or 2-5 or 4-5 decision, I will be at a loss to see why is it that the Supreme Court didn't see through that case and somehow people were led to believe that it had any evidence at all. But the good thing we see today is that the NDC itself believed that it didn't have a case, and the Supreme Court saw that it didn't have a case, and so therefore unanimously ruled against them. Now they come out to besmirch the character of the court. I'm saying that that is not a conduct we should encourage. Okay. That is not a behavior Ghana we should encourage. So we should call on them to apologize so that it serves as an example to the MPP, to the CPP, to the PNC, that you don't proceed to court on account of no evidence. Because, you know, it's a serious matter. Election petition is a serious matter. And you talk about the MPP 2013 petition, the outcome of the court case tells you
okay,
the evidence that implemented.
Right.
So ultimately, I guess the point I'm making is that it is in the interest of public morality for the NDC to apologize.
Okay. Let's look at the National Cathedral, and I just want to set some precedents to this. We were told that, yes, we would have some seed money provided by the state for the National Cathedral project, but beyond that, it was going to be, you know, religious groupings, private enterprise that would have to chip in. At a point, calls were made for people to contribute 100 CDs every now and then. But in recent times, some of what has been said, the Defense Minister, Dominic Nitiwu, has been saying the cathedral is important because it has religious significance, that there's a reason in Israel 15% of citizens don't work, according to him. They just pray and the state looks after them. We've heard from Mr. President saying that it is prayers that saved us from a civil war, which is why we need a national cathedral. He refers to those who are against the project as Sanballat and Tobias. But with all the hue and cry about the cathedral, and by the way, Parliament has jettisoned the 80 million Ghana cedis that was allocated for the cathedral in 2023 through fierce battles at the committee level, the plenary level. I just want you to listen to what the Domahene had to say and tell me whether the MPP shouldn't consider putting the project on ice or at least doing something else with it. Just stay with us for what the Domahene had to say and give me your reaction.
Mpasande faso na okachire mampanyini Ghana for ba oye pa se.
You swore to God to build a national cathedral in his honor if you won the elections. That's a very good thing to do. However, given the economic difficulties Ghanaians are facing around this time, the people have asked me to tell you to put the project on hold. It's your initiative. No one can take that away from you. But don't use the national coffers to build the cathedral. Tell him to focus on economic recovery so that in good time, even if he's not able to complete it, any of his brothers could do so. That is what Ghanaians want me to tell you.
Richard, what's your reaction to what the Domahene says?
Well, that's a point well noted. I don't think that there's any disagreement in the position of the president, of the government, and of all Christians across this country who support that the cathedral be built.
I've heard Christians come out ferociously speaking against it. One of them, Sam George, you must have heard him yesterday, quoting the Bible against the same cathedral.
Yes, I heard it. But what Sam was saying is in essence to say that Akufo-Addo should not build it. He should not build it or doing their own political stuff. He did not say that a cathedral was not needed. That's not what he said. That's not what he said. So the principle I think we need to proceed from, the position we need to proceed from is that is a cathedral essential? Then we can talk about the incidental matters of the time.
Tell me, Richard, is it essential, especially in our economic situation? Do we need a cathedral here and now?
Well, so you're asking two different questions. You want to ask one question. I'm saying that we should...
No, I'm asking them together. Is it essential?
Well, it'll be difficult. So first of all, is it essential? As a Christian, I'll tell you yes. And you can tell me your answer as a Christian if you said no. Can I have your answer?
My answer to what exactly?
To say that you asked me if the cathedral is essential, and I answered to you that as a Christian, I think is essential. What would your answer be?
I am a Christian. I don't think it is essential, especially on the back of our economic situation.
No justification. Just the premise that everything is held constant. The question asked to you as a Christian, do you think cathedral is essential? My answer to that is that holding everything constant, yes, cathedral is essential as a Christian. And your answer is what?
Where everything is what? Where everything that is being held constant is what?
The additional questions that you want to ask of the times we're in, if you hold all of those things constant, is a cathedral useful? Do we need it?
I wouldn't say so, no.
Okay. As a Christian, I think that it's useful. Now we can talk about the incident of time and whether or not we should invest this much into it and all of that. Yes, I hear the Domahine is making very solid points. He's not the only person who has made that point. Even in the government, the president understands the time that we're in. If you heard him, the last time he addressed the country, talked about the difficulty which he appreciates without exaggeration. So there is clear understanding of where we are. But you see, resources, there will always be competition for resources. Interest will always be competing for resources over time. So there is never going to be a quiet moment where there is no other thing that needs our resources to be invested in. And so therefore then will be a good time to build a cathedral. I understand that maybe the urgency of now may compel these conversations to be hard to say that let's put it on hold. But you know, the construction of this cathedral, incidentally, is providing employment for people. If you, on your screen right now, as you're showing me, there are people there who are working, whose livelihoods we don't factor in to say that they are Ghanaians working to produce or to build some infrastructure on our landscape, whose completion will also continue to create jobs.
So let me just make this quick point. Pardon me, my sincere apologies, but work on the cathedral has stalled for quite a while now. There's been absolutely no work going on for quite a while, as I know it. So I don't know whether anybody would be there earning a living or because no one is working.
No, you just showed me a picture.
But these are from the past. These are not current. These are from the past.
So, but that is even more to my point, to say that if work has stalled because of these agitations, stop it, you just saw human beings working to dig that foundation. If work was ongoing, wouldn't they be earning income? So that's just the point I'm making. I'm not saying that you should build it for them to earn it, but I'm saying that what is happening there, if you stop it, that's somebody's livelihood who is also a Ghanaian. The idea is for us not to engage in this sectional argument. There is essence for the cathedral. If we're having a conversation to say that let's not build it now because times are difficult, absolutely. What I would say we'll do is that let the private sources of funding that the cathedral administrators are engaged in, let them intensify that effort. Let all of us as Ghanaians engage in supporting the cathedral if we find it useful, to make sure that they continue to build it. But let's not get to a point where we are politicizing the building of it and making it appear as if it is a sin to want to build. I heard some George. There are quotations in the Bible that will contradict what he's saying. It's dangerous when we're engaging in this conversation to say that we're building a cathedral is a vain exercise. I don't think that as a Christian, I see the building of a cathedral as a vain exercise. That is a difficult call for me to make. You know, one of the hopes that we have as human beings is our belief that beyond here, there's a place we're going. Whether it is true that there is life after death, whether it's true the proposition of the Christian religion is true, I take comfort in that because I cannot divine the answers to that question today. So I take solace in that idea to say that somehow there is hope for me beyond here. That, let's not deny that to Ghanaians. If we are trying to create a national consciousness that tells us that we believe in something beyond here, and let's conduct ourselves responsibly in ways that will make us good candidates for the world beyond. Let's not deny our fellow citizens the opportunity to be conscientized in that direction. What I want to submit to you, that beyond all the political conversations we are having to denigrate or to demonize the building of the cathedral, I tell you that by that structure, once we build it, the consciousness it gives to Ghanaians has potential to help us in improving law enforcement, in creating awareness in people that as a country, we believe in certain set of values, and those values may hold us accountable in our conduct.
In other words, Richard, you're telling me that we are who we are, but the cathedral, merely having the cathedral will give us that sense of religion or consciousness of God and make us better?
I just told you about public morality, which is necessary for the NDC to apologize. There are certain things we do at the micro level that is useful. At my own personal level, I have a belief that is private to me. But if the country is elevating and trying to put on its landscape a national consciousness of godness and saying that as a country we believe in God in a certain way that was not dramatized for us before, but at a national level, we have built this monument for God that brings to focus to those who don't even appreciate that conversation, those who may disagree or may have contrary view to that God conversation, may then suddenly begin to get into the notion of accepting and thinking a bit more that even if I doubt the situation here, my country is building a monument for that God that I don't believe in. Somehow it has a way of seeping into our consciousness to say that maybe I should take this thing a bit more seriously.
Okay, let me So, sorry to interject. We're wrapping the conversation. Before I take your final thoughts in some 30 seconds. So we've expended almost 400 million Ghana cedis on the cathedral as it is now. We also are looking at the fact that actually we have the biggest cathedral in Ghana up north. Why don't we prioritize one like that and maybe make it better for touristic purposes and even to spread development across the country? Everything is concentrated in Accra. We have a cathedral up north that is the biggest in the country. Why not do that? And looking at how much we've expended with practically empty hands, we have nothing to show yet.
Well, if you have a foundation, it means you are building something. And it is after the foundation that you see the structure. So when you are building a foundation, it doesn't mean you don't have anything. You have a foundation, and that's what you have. And you must have a good foundation to have a good structure. So let's not. I think that answers your question of we don't have anything. We have a solid foundation to build on. The idea that you're suggesting about a cathedral up north and the need to spread development, I think that absolutely is the vision of this government. We just created 6 new regions for purposes of spreading development and making governance be close to people. In fact, there's a deliberate policy in these 6 new regions to not concentrate development at the regional capital, but to spread them across the region. You saw for the first time in our history, a president that moved the national independence celebration out of Accra. We had Tamale, we had Kumasi, we had Cape Coast. That is the awareness that we must spread development. So certainly, these are interesting conversations to have. We should be having those. And you know, my idea of a critical political conversation or communication is to begin to engage in ideas and some of which is what you are doing. So even though you are in the media, your view is critical, your propositions are critical, we should take those and input all of those things in policy thinking, and ultimately we'll come out with the best ideas to help develop our country. So yes, that's certainly a good idea.
Right.
It doesn't mean when we build a national cathedral, we can't build a regional cathedral.
To cap off the conversation, so what are your final words? What can we expect from the MPP?
We can build a regional cathedral.
Right. What are your final words, Richard? What can we expect from the MPP in 2023? Can we look forward to anything better, economically speaking? Final words in some 30 seconds. Did you get that, Richard?
Oh, no, you're suggesting what you can expect from the MPP in 2023, you said?
Yes, economically speaking, and basically from the party. What can we expect in 2023?
Yeah, certainly there should be a lot happening in 2023. The budget I'm excited about in 2023, especially because of its emphasis on building domestic capacity to export. I think that would be good. It would help us cancel a lot of the expense of forex that goes out, and those will stay in and help create employment for our Ghanaians through the production, and also help stabilize our city. And also, once our city stabilizes, it then helps our debt to come down. You saw that recently we're having a conversation, our debt to GDP ratio in excess of 500 billion or so. Now, with the recent strengthening of the city, it's come down by several billions of dollars, several billions of cedis. And so that is a significant improvement that helps us recalculate our debt to GDP just by strengthening our city. So any effort aimed at ensuring that we as a people, we are consuming more, producing more, and limiting our dependence on import will help our economy stabilize and then create more jobs. 2023, right. I see much of this happening, and I entreat Ghanaians to support this government, have faith that in spite of the challenges, they should count it that the MPP is committed and remains the best option for Ghana in terms of development and freedom.
Richard Ahiagba is Communications Director of the MPP. Richard, Mr. Ahiagba, thank you so much for having joined us on the AM show.
Thank you kindly.
Right. And that has been our discourse, but stay with us because coming up next, we have the next leg of our big stories. We're going to be discussing the cedi dollar romance. The cedi gained quite a lot. It has also sustained some losses in recent days. What can we look at? We'll also be telling you about the E-Levy Act. Parliament has been taking a look at that, and there's an amendment to it after government beat a hasty retreat. We'll also tell you about, of course, the 1.5% that has been reduced to 1%, and the threshold that was removed now being reinstated. So look forward to that conversation after the break. But before we go, the Frital Joy FM Family Party in the Park is the perfect place for your family. So the date is December the 26th, just a few days away. The venue is Ibri Botanical Gardens. The time is 9 a.m. till you decide to knock off. The rate is a cool 100 Ghana cedis for a family of 6. You can purchase your tickets from the Joy FM front desk or dial the short code *713*003#. Select one, select Joy Party in the Park, or call 0265-125-3184 for inquiries. The Joy FM Party in the Park is sponsored by Frital Sunflower Cooking Oil. Enjoy the goodness in tasty meals. Fortune Rice, always on point, just like mom. Alliance Life Insurance. We secure your future. Syntax Tank, strong, tough, and supported by ATL, bringing fabrics to life. Mobile Doctors Ghana, the doctor at your home. Ghana AIDS Commission, condomless sex is risky. If it's not on, it's definitely not in. Coa Mixture, the medicine that works. Joy FM Family Party in the Park, your #1 family outdoor event. For tickets and reservations, please call 0540-106-466. We take a breather. We return after the break.
It's a minute to the top of the hour. This is the AM show. I'm Bernice, Abu-Baidoo, Lansah. Thank you so much for staying on. This morning, we're going to have a conversation about the CD-dollar relationship, what exactly is happening, what's accounting for what we are seeing now, and also pick the concerns and reactions of experts to issues surrounding the sharp appreciation. Is that problematic? Well, my colleague Isaac Kofi, data analyst here at JoyNews, and Seram Kawo, senior lecturer at UCC School of Business, will be helping us do that. Let me start with you, Isaac Kofi, because he's going to set the tone for that conversation with Seram. Isaac, good morning to you.
Morning, Bernice.
Yeah, great to have you here once again. So this morning we have an agenda, right, which is to try to help all of us understand why we're seeing the CD appreciates the way it's doing, especially in this time of the year, and what exactly the trend has been over time.
Well, it's good to start with on the note that we actually began the year with $1 trading for some 6 cedis and 10 pesos. And before July, I think July, August, we saw the CD or the dollar rising from, the 6 cedis to 15 cedis, 80 pesos. Then in December, we are seeing some good news for the dollar. The CD actually, we've seen some sharp appreciation where between January and November, the CD lost about 54% of its value to the dollar. But just in less than 22 days or 23 days, the CD has gained more than 50% of its value that it lost to the dollar, so a regain for the CD. And so before we began, December, first the dollar was trading for 14 cedis, 30 pesos. Then we saw it, it's declining to 14 cedis, 13 pesos, to 14 cedis, 5 pesos. And then we've seen the decline continue now to 9 cedis and some 34 pesos on the average. If you go to the interbank, markets, BOG is still quoting 8 cedis for both buying and selling. But if you look at, the commercial rates, if you go to those who are actually the Forex bureaus and also some of the markets we've been tracking on the internet, especially Bloomberg, you can see on average the dollar is trading for 9 cedis, 34 pesos. Before we even came to the studio, the CD has gained some value again against the dollar and has now dropped from the 9 cedis, 34 pesos to 9 cedis, 24 pesos. And so that's some good news for the CD Bennice.
Right, interesting, Kofi, and it's important that we mention, when the Bank of Ghana puts out the rates there, we all see it on social media, we publish it online, but there are the realities, if I may put it that way, of what you really get when you go to do business with the Forex Bureau or go to the bank to transact business. Let me now bring in Seram Kawo. Kofi J is still standing by with more for us, but just on this call, let me just find out from him his quick thoughts. Good morning to you, Mr. Kawo. Thank you for joining the program.
Thank you for having me.
Great. So, like Kofi has mentioned, we've seen the CD perform so well against the dollar in this month. There are those who say that, look, don't be too excited. This is because the dollar itself is struggling on the world market, and so it would naturally translate into how the CD performs against it. But there are those who say that, no, there are real policies, policy decisions that have been made that are affecting the CD's performance. For you, what do you think is the main driver of the CD's performance against the dollar?
Okay. We have multiple factors that are affecting the performance of the CD, as we see in the market. The dollar struggling in the international market is one factor, but then there are policies that have been implemented by the government, and these policies are also driving the rate as we see it appreciating over time now. We see government trying to ensure that they clamp down on the black market, where they do not allow, they are arresting people, and once they are arresting them, the black market is also not functioning as they used to be. We see government trying to ensure that the dollar is supplied to essential commodity importers. And so some of these things are also affecting the rate. We also noticed that in the past, the importers would need to import their goods ahead of the festive seasons. And so these imports have been done during that particular time. So there was a high demand for the dollar. So we have it getting to the 15 cedis as we have at the time. And so this during this particular time, there is no much import that we're going to have because the importers or the traders had already purchased their goods in the market. And for that matter, we have this particular situation. We also have the government coming out to say that, well, they're going to buy gold from the local market. So instead of these people sending the gold outside, they are buying it at the rate that they will agree with. And all these factors come to play a role. Of course, the activities of the speculators have dwindled down when we heard the president talking about money doesn't like noise. And so the speculation, the fear, and all those things have gone down. We then have the IMF coming in to have a staff level agreement with the government where we have the hope that eventually we're going to land the extended credit agreement with $3 billion coming from the IMF and the World Bank and other agencies. We also hear of the debt exchange, we hear of the debt servicing suspension and all those things. These are things that are driving the market as we see today.
Interesting, but which of these do you think is the main driver?
When you look at the main driver for me is the IMF staff level agreements that we have. That will be the main driver of the currency coming down. Once the IMF comes in, it gives us some amount of policy credibility, a situation which will also tell us that Ghana will not be doing things their own way, but they will have the experts with the IMF trying to correct government in the things that they do over time.
Right, I'll have you hold on here for us, Mr. Cowell. Back to my colleague in studio, Kofi J. He has more data to share with us. So, Kofi, what you're about to do next is run us through what the trajectory or trend has been from 2019 to 2022.
Yeah, so actually I'm looking at pre-COVID, post-COVID, and actually during COVID, what has the depreciation of the cedi or the exchange rates been like. So if you look at 2019, so this is actually 2019, 2020, we have 2021 in this region, and then also 2022. So look at how the cedi actually depreciated in 2022. If you compare this, graphs or the charts to what we saw in 2019 and 2021, as there's a sharp difference between what we saw in this period and what we are currently seeing. So in 2019, by December, the cedi has actually depreciated by cumulatively 12.9%. That was for the entire year. And in 2020, the entire year, the cedi actually depreciated by just 3.9%. And in 2021, something good really happened. The cedi also depreciated by some, 4.1%. But if you compare all these 12%, 3%, 4%, to what we currently have in 2022, by the end of November, the cedi had lost, 54.2% of its value. Mr. Carr was actually looking at, the Bank of Ghana bringing in some measures and all that, but I'm also looking at it from the external, shocks or factors. So to me, the main driver of this whole exchange rate or the sharp increase or the sharp appreciation of the cedis as a result of what the U.S. government is doing or the Fed is doing. So we have what we call the monetary policy rates. Remember that beginning of the year where every country was struggling with inflation because of this, Russia-Ukraine tension and also COVID-19. So U.S. had their inflation actually moving to somewhere around, 9%, and they really didn't like it. So what they had to do was to, try and do what we call monetary policy tightening. And in monetary policy tightening, you believe that the current inflation you have as a country is being driven by, more money chasing less goods. So what U.S. did was that they introduced the monetary policy tightening to actually absorb the dollars available from the system. And you know, as a country, we don't print dollars, and so we depend on what US will supply for us to also feed our domestic market. And so they were actually mopping up the dollars from the system, and it affected everybody. You know, investors were investing their, their assets or everything in dollars because it became a store of value. But currently, inflation is down in the US, and investors are now afraid that the US will do something we call, the quantitative easing. And if there's quantitative easing, it simply means that we're going to have more dollars available in the system. And if you have your money in dollars, it means you're going to lose because the value will drop. And as a result, a lot of people are now changing the dollars they have into currencies they feel that is safe at the moment. So you have in Ghana people changing from dollars to cedis, from euro to cedis, and also from pound to cedi. And currency is just like any commodity. And so it's affected by the forces of demand and supply. So, supply of every currency is somewhat fixed in a certain period. So, for instance, if you look at the cedi, the supply is fixed for a certain period. So you have demand artificially increasing. And when you have demand increasing and supply is fixed, you virtually have the price of that, currency going up. And another factor probably we can also look at is, if you look at this from the international market, crude prices are also dropping. You have refined crude also dropping. As a country, we spend on average close to $4 billion every year to import crude into this country. So we have, the price of crude per barrel dropping from some $100 per barrel to now, I think, somewhere around 75 million. And it's actually giving importers some, breathing space, and it's actually putting less pressure on the dollar compared to what we saw in August and then July at the beginning of the year.
Great, Kofi. Let me go back to Mr. Kawo, Senior Lecturer at the UCC School of Business. There are those who suggest that the sharp appreciation of the cedi is very dangerous for any currency. I don't know what you make of that. We saw a sharp decline, but is there anything to worry about in terms of how quickly our cedi is appreciated against the US dollar?
Okay. If you look at the decline, the depreciation, it was also very sharp. And at a point in time, we were having depreciation occurring almost every day or some few hours that we have. So when it is also coming up, it means that the managers have put in those measures to ensure that we get it right. And so if the currency is appreciating, there are people who are going to look at it from two different points. There are gainers, there are losers. And so for those who import things into the country, they are actually going to gain, because once the value of the cedi appreciates over time, they're going to buy things at a lower price. And once they bring it in, those things are going to be cheaper. Those who are producing within the country are not going to be very happy. They're not going to be very happy because at the end of the day, their commodities are going to be more expensive than those that they bring in. And so we look at these two dynamics. For me, when the value of the currency appreciates, it means a good news for us because our debt portfolio will also decrease over time. And once we mostly depend on imports into our country, that appreciation is a good news for a country.
Interesting. So, I mean, what should we be looking forward to? We've established that this could largely be driven by some elements within our control, outside our control. I say that because you suggest that the main driver is the staff level agreement we reached with the IMF. Government is hoping to reach board level agreement by the first quarter of next year. We are seeing what is happening to the debt exchange program. The organized labor is adamant on government touching pension funds for that debt exchange program. We are likely to see a stall. Also, Kofi Adjei alluded to what's happening in the US itself with regards to its policy rates and how it's affecting its performance around the world. So these things are not really within our control per se. So should we be treading cautiously, especially when it comes to our excitement around the city's performance?
Yeah, you rightly put it. We need to tread cautiously. And these external factors that we see, and I agree with your colleague that talked about the monetary policy tightening and loosening in the market, just like the Bank of Ghana is also doing in our country, Ghana. But then these external factors that are affecting the performance of the cedi, that is where the IMF comes in. And so once the IMF comes in, the World Bank, IMF, other bilateral countries, they are all going to work together so that the price is stable in the future. But whatever that we are trying to do now, we make sure that we continue to do it. We abide by the agreement that we're going to have with the IMF, and they will also have to ensure that expenditure of the government is not done unnecessarily. We heard of some of the major policies of government being reviewed by led by World Bank being reviewed. And so the free SHS policy, for instance, we've been calling for a review of the policy where the private individuals can also come in to help. Parents are ready to give some amount of money for that particular one. So when those things are done, and then the expenditure of government is reduced to a particular level, we will see all these things working out for us.
Interesting. Kofi has more to share with us.
Well, I wanted to focus on the external debt restructuring, why it is important to this whole exchange discussion. And so if you look at Ghana as a country, 2023, which is next year, if you look at our budget, we are hoping to spend some 21 billion Ghana cedis on payments on our external debt. And if you convert it to cedi, if I should use Bank of Ghana's rates, which is around 8 cedis, this is about $2.4 billion. So it means in 2023, we are hoping to pay $2.4 billion to settle interest on all our external loans.
And that is converting it at the current rate.
Absolutely.
Given by the Bank of Ghana.
Exactly. So it means that if IMF is giving you $3 billion, and next year you're supposed to use $2.4 billion to settle your debt, it means you do not have that fiscal space to actually do the expenditure or to actually invest in certain areas that are productive areas. It means every money you get as a country, you are using it to pay your debt. So IMF will make sure that you restructure your debt so that you have this fiscal space to make sure you use the money they give you for productive use. And so they will not agree. That's why there's a condition that if your debt levels are unsustainable, you have to go ahead to do a restructuring. So we are doing this restructuring to make sure that as a country, we have the fiscal space to accommodate the $3 billion IMF money that we actually expecting. And so as a country, for instance, we spend 1.7 billion every year to pay interest. If you add, principal payments and charges, close to $2.4 billion every year. So $2.4 billion, we can't afford to do that going forward next year, because if you look at balance of payments, the finance minister gave an update to somewhere around $10 billion. And we need foreign liquidity, dollars, to make sure that we close this gap to give the economy the kind of breathing space it needs to accommodate this IMF deal. That is why the debt exchange program has really, really become very important as a country, because if you look at our Eurobond, our standing Eurobond is somewhere around $13.4 billion. $13.4 billion, you are supposed to settle in the next 10 years, pay close to $7.8 billion. And even with that, about 80% or 43% of that money is supposed to be paid in the next 5 years. And we can't afford to do that. So we need the IMF for supervision and also give us the kind of liquidity that we need to make sure that we do not put a lot of pressure on our external reserve as a country.
Right. Let me introduce Dr. Alex Akpabli. He's Vice President of the Ghana Association of Forest Bureaus. Great to have you here, sir. Thanks for joining the program. Hello, Dr. Akpabli. Too bad we lost him there. I was just going to take his thoughts on what's happening with the cedi-dollar relationship and what he believes could be the reason for that. But Kofi, while we work on Doc's line, just yesterday and the day before, we saw a decline in the performance of the cedi. This morning, it's back What exactly is happening there?
Well, the exchange rate has been moving like a pendulum. I think in the past, 5 days, we see the dollar will rise, fall again, will rise and fall again, but it has never actually crossed, 9 cedi 50 pesos. If you look at what we actually observe on some credible currency portals like Bloomberg, it's always below the 10 cedis. But the dollar is fighting back. In fact, there are people now moving their monies from cryptocurrencies and they feel they have to buy dollars now. There are people who also feel that this is the time they have to take advantage and like investors, save their assets in terms of dollars because they see it as a store of value. But just like I was saying, if you look at the monetary policy tightening, we do not know when, the Fed or the US government will slow down. They're actually slowing down, but we do not know the period, how long they will go in this kind of slowing down that they're actually carrying out. But the fear is that if they keep slowing down and if they keep, making monies available in the system, then it means the dollar is going to lose value because it's just like any other thing, just like demand and supply.
Right.
And now the cedi has become the hot chick in terms of, if you go to the currency markets, for instance, the cedi is the hot chick because everybody's changing from dollars to cedis, from pound to cedis, and then also from euro to cedis. So fixed supply, but everybody's running after it. And people have come in, for the festive season. Exactly. They are remitting. They will need to convert the dollars to cedis to make sure that they're spending. And that's helping us. But we're hoping that we are able to consolidate and sustain this kind of appreciation we're seeing.
That's very important. I'm told we have Dr. Akpabli back on the line. He's Vice President of the Ghana Association of Forex Bureaus. Good morning to you, Doc.
Morning.
Right, great to have you here on the program. So we've been trying to understand what's happening on our market with regards to the cedi's performance against the dollar. My colleague who analyzes data, Kofi J, has made a few suggestions. We've also heard from a lecturer at the University of Cape Coast Business School. But for you, who works with Forex bureaus, what is your understanding and appreciation of what exactly is driving the cedi's performance against the dollar?
Well, thank you very much. From where I stand and the lens that I wear, can you hear me?
Yes, Doc, I can hear you.
So with the lens that I wear, what I can see is that there has been a sharp, appreciation of the cedi. But I keep cautioning, for some of us who do this kind of talk, that we must be very careful because of what we say. In that, the cedi appreciation and depreciation must solely lie on the domain of government and let me say policy makers. The last time when I was speaking, I was saying that all what we need is just a stable currency, all right, so that business people, for some of us who are in the market, can plan, all right. There are some exogenous factors that causes both the appreciation and the depreciation, and that is not. We can only manage because the exogenous factors we can only manage, but those that fall within, I think that policymakers must do well to do everything possible that we have a stable currency that business people can plan. Okay? It is not a matter when you have a strong currency. For instance, our cedi, when juxtaposed with the rate juxtaposed with that of Japan, you see that our cedi is stronger than the Japanese yen. Our cedi is stronger, almost a bit in the South African run. But those economies seem to be doing better than ours. Okay, so the issue rather, so what can we do to get a stable currency? Okay, what should we be doing to get a stable currency? I think that is the crux of the matter.
Yeah, so what are your suggestions? What should we be doing to get a stable currency?
I think that lies between the policymaker, maybe Bank of Ghana, those using this monetary policy, and the fiscal policy. All must have a purpose. Okay, this must be purpose-driven. That this is so. At the end of the day, we can measure. We can
Right.
measure our performance.
Oh,
You understand?
Yes,
so,
Doc.
So if I tell you that this is what the government must be doing, they are technocrats, all right? These are technocrats that we have.
But you work within you work in an essential part of the market, and that's why I'm asking if you have any thoughts to share based on your experience and the work you do. But your response is fair. I'm on the Facebook page of the Bank of Ghana. An hour ago, it released the exchange rates, and I'm just going to go through it. For the USD, buying at 8.0050 CD, selling at 8.0130. For the pound, buying at 9.6916 and selling at 9.7029. For the euro, buying at 8.4992 CDs and selling at 8.5084. I'm doing this because there are many people who've gone to forex bureaus in the country. They've taken snapshots and they don't seem to tally with what the BOG publishes every day, or even if there is a difference, they think it's too much. What exactly is causing that?
So thank you very much for that. The Bank of Ghana rate is the interbank rate. That's the interbank rate.
Right.
And not necessarily what is happening in the open market.
Right.
You understand? That's the interbank rate.
Mm-hmm.
So when you come to the forex bureau, for instance, if you also go to our website, if you go to GAFORB, GAFORB.org, you see our rate, there. We are buying the dollar at 9 cedis and selling at 11, but these are indicative, all right? It guides, but be reminded that these rates are determined by demand and supply, okay? And sometimes, the recent sharp appreciation has caused most of our members, they lost what we call exchange loss. They suffered exchange loss. Okay? Meaning that they bought, they were having stock of, foreign currency, and with the sharp appreciation, they have to reduce the rate to be able to sell, to get their city back. And so there was a lot of exchange loss suffered or experienced within the foreign bureau industry. Okay? Mm-hmm. So now it appears that, people now knowing that the rate has come down, thinking that this is also the time to buy. As you already said, remember that the currencies or your CD has a function of what we call a store of value. It's a medium of exchange and as well as a store of value. And therefore, if your CD is losing value or let's say even appreciating, then whatever currency that you have, you may want to get a CD so that you can store, its value can be stored, so it will not depreciate. So that is the rational aspect, economic rational aspect of it, that you see people trying to exchange one currency to another because they don't want the currency that they hold, they don't want its value to lose.
Right.
You understand? So
Great.
that is what is happening in the market.
So
go ahead.
So sorry, I had to cut in, Doc. But also just to add to what you're clarifying, there's also the concern about the difference between how much you're buying and how much you're selling it for. So with the BOG interbank rates, for example, we're seeing just a few pesos causing that difference. Let me just go back. So the dollar is being bought at 8.0050 and sold at 8.0130. That's very few pesos there. But you say, for example, that you're buying at 9 CDs and selling at 11. That's a clear 2 CDs difference. Why is that?
That's it. So, but you have forgotten that we pay rent, we pay salaries, we pay taxes, we pay other bills, AMA bills, so many taxes that we pay.
Right.
And if you're a business person like me, these rates are not just established, for it. We sit down, do a lot of calculation goes into it.
That's fair enough. I'm only saying this because of the reactions on social media and how people react to this. So it's good that you're clearing and clarifying that sometimes service charges and other things are put in computation of these rates. So for you as an association, clearly you are, and your business is also the focus point of all that is happening. Tell us how you suffer or what the pros and cons are for you with regards to the sharp depreciation and the sharp appreciation of the cedi. For business people, they say we can't plan. It's difficult for us to plan. But for you as Forex Bureau owners, what are the pros and cons for you?
Well, as for us, we buy and sell.
Yeah.
And because we are a regulated institution, we only play according to the rules of the game, whether it's a cedi appreciate or depreciate. What happened is that we put our margin, So as far as the depreciation and appreciation are concerned, in that regard, we don't suffer much. The only aspect is that maybe if you have you bought maybe dollars down and then there's a sharp appreciation, then you suffer this what I call the exchange loss, because you may want to sell it to make up to get your cedi back in order to buy more foreign currency again. And so you are forced, because of the sharp appreciation, you are forced to sell it at a lower price, that you bought. Okay, so that is the only adverse side. But otherwise, we conform or play, according to the rules of the
rules of your game, right?
Yeah.
We are told this.
Hang on. When you come to the bureau, all you need is to bring your ID card, like your Ghana card, okay, and insist on your receipt. Okay. And then because you are selling to us, if you are coming to sell to us, we are buying from you. You must insist on your receipt. Okay, so that's it. And we don't, as far as business planning in terms of trading is concerned, we don't.
You're not affected much, right, yeah. Doc? We were told earlier this week that there was shortage of cedis in the system. Is that still the case?
Yes, yes. I think that when 3 months, not even 3, about 2 months ago, there was shortage. When the sharp appreciation happened, most of us locked our cedis into foreign currencies, and we were not having cedis to buy. But whether that is the same, what happened, the same thing happened in the bank, I can't tell. I'm speaking with the lens of what is happening in the Forex Bureau industry. Okay? So whether that happens within the banking industry, I cannot tell. But we, those who operate within the Forex Bureaus, yes, because we locked up our money in foreign currency and nobody was buying. There was a short of cedi.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time this morning. Dr. Alex Akpabli is Vice President of the Ghana Association of Forex Bureaus, giving us some clarity there and also responding to concerns about shortage of cedis in the system. Let me just quickly wrap up with you, Kofi Ajay, in studio. Kofi, so this is where we are. I mean, still hoping that things will get better, obviously, because we know what it is like when the dollar rises. Then we pay more for fuel, for crude, and then it translates into transport first, but trickle down to every other commodity. So you have been looking at the data. Does it look like this will last for long? What exactly should we be looking forward to?
Well, with IMF in the boat, we are likely to actually sustain this for a while because they're going to take care of our balance of payment for the next 3 years. We'll get some monies, we'll get some foreign liquidity relief. But I really want to comment on the shortage of cedi that the Forex Bureau said they were actually not finding cedi. It's not as if there were no cedis, but just like I was saying, if you were selling a dollar for 15 cedis and it's now, let's say, 12 cedis or 13 cedis. Someone comes to you and I say, Bernice, I have $300 or $100. I want to change at the rate of, let's say, 10 cedis. You are afraid, as you know, a trader, that what if I sell to this person, or what if I buy rather? What if I buy this person says, I have $100, I want to sell it to you. What if I buy at a rate of, let's say, 10 cedis, and the next moment it is, 9 cedis? It means I'll lose. So they weren't ready to lose because they were anticipating that the cedi was going to appreciate further. And so if you have dollars and you want to change to cedis, nobody wanted, because the dollar became, people were dumping the dollar for cedis.
Right.
Exactly. Makes so sense. It wasn't as if, cedi, there was a shortage of cedi. They just didn't want to change because they didn't want to lose. They were anticipating a loss. And as every rational economic agent, if you anticipate these things, you react in a positive manner. And that's what they were simply doing. But with the IMF in the boat, I actually see that, we can sustain this for a while in the coming years. Probably in 2023, things will be better than we saw in 2022, especially in the arena of, the depreciation of the cedi and everything. Because if you look at this graph, for instance, and you compare what we have here in 2022 to all other years, this is actually an outlier. And the same thing, if you look at both appreciation and depreciation, there is some artificial elements in there. So for instance, this is December. Ordinarily, the cedi should depreciate by cumulatively some 13 or 14%, but we saw 54% as of November, and now we've seen it appreciating by more than 40%. And so it's back at the normal level, moving from 6 cedis 10 pesos to 9 cedis 40 pesos at the open market, and also 8 cedis and some few pesos at the interbank level provided by the Bank of Ghana.
Thank you so much, Kofi. It's been really exciting doing this with you. Kofi Ajay is my colleague here at JoyNews. He is our data analyst, and he's been taking us through the cedi's performance against the dollar from the beginning of this year till now. He's also been doing some comparative studies of what happened in 2019 till date. Well, water is life. It regulates your body temperature and keeps you alive and kicking. Awake is premium purified water, treated through a strict purification process to ensure that every bottle on the market refreshes you better. We have the perfect sizes for all occasions. 330 ml and 500 ml bottles to fit your pockets and bags. 750 ml for the heavy drinkers, and 1.5 liters for those who always want more. We've introduced our special 19-liter jar for offices and homes. Now, you just need to stay awake with Awake Purified Drinking Water wherever you go. Come on, grab a bottle of Awake water and get quality hydration. Awake Purified Drinking Water, one for life. Remember, for every bottle you purchase, an amount is donated to the National Cardiothoracic Center. It's produced by Casapreco. For bulk purchase, please call 026-235-1251. This advert is FDA approved. Let me say thank you to my guest, Dr. Akpabli, who is with the Forex Bureaus Association as his vice president. We also had Mr. Seram Kao, who is a senior lecturer at the University of Cape Coast Business School. Thank you, gentlemen, for helping me do this. And before we take a quick breather to come and get interactive with you, the Ghana Revenue Authority wishes to inform you that those who want to apply for a tax clearance certificate should do so via www.taxpayersportal.com or download the Ghana Taxpayers app on Google Play Store or App Store. Applicants who visit our taxpayer service centers will be assisted by officers of the authority to apply. Applicants are also required to indicate the taxpayer identification number, that's 10 of the institution or organization requesting the certificate, so they can receive a copy. Applicants should take note and be guided accordingly. Kindly contact GRS toll free 0800 900 110 or via these WhatsApp numbers 055 299 0000 or 020 063 1664. So we'll take a quick breather. When we come back, we get interactive with you. Do stay. Thank you so much for staying here on the AM show. Benjamin Akakpo joins me because it's time to get interactive with you. Hello, Benjamin.
Hi, Bernice.
Hi.
It's been another morning, fourth day of the week.
Yeah.
I don't know why am I so eager to get to Friday.
Yeah, because you love Christmas, don't you?
I do.
And you're gonna and he's gonna get a Christmas break, so have a happy, jolly Christmas.
I can't say happy Christmas break to you because you'll be here, but I'll be back in the new year as we do the do. There's this joke about a woman who asked her husband for, Charlie, do something. It's getting to Christmas, and he had money though, but he looked aside and said, "Don't disturb me. It's Jesus' birthday. If anything, reach out to him. You'll find something."
Interesting. But it's now time to get interactive with you. The number to call will be on your screen, 0302-211-691.
Today you didn't want to test me.
No. Let's see what you have to say about what we've been discussing today. Benjamin has been speaking to Richard Hyagba, talking about the NPP as a party, discussing all the topical issues, talking about their key projects, the controversial National Cathedral, talking about
1D, 1F,
planting food and jobs.
And I brought up practical aspects of why we had failed. And I found it curious when I asked him, so 1D, 1F, can we say that it has reduced our import bill by X% or saved us Y billions?
Yeah. Well, our first caller from WA. Hello, Bawa. Good morning to you. Let's hear you. Good morning, Bawa.
I just wanted to ask you a question. I thought it's just, a promise the government Akufo made for the National Cathedral. I don't know why suddenly then he's then saying the cathedral is for the state.
Sorry. Hello, Bawa. Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
I didn't get what you said. I'm not sure Benjamin did either. Can you just take your time and speak so we can hear you clearly? Okay. So you were saying, hello, Bawa? Too bad we lost Bawa.
I suspected he was going to do that. We were just, Bawa, if you can hear us, we were just asking you to go back, repeat what you had said. We couldn't hear it.
We couldn't hear you. Sorry
we couldn't
about
hear what
that.
you said.
I heard only the National Cathedral, but I couldn't hear anything after that.
Yes.
Sorry, really sorry, Bawa.
I was actually going to ask because I wanted to be sure what he was saying and I couldn't hear a word of what he was saying.
Please call us back if you can, Bawa. We have Ralph joining us from Nkwanta. Good morning, Ralph. How's Nkwanta? Let's hear what you have to say.
Nkwanta is good.
Great.
And your thoughts for us this morning are?
It has to do about the cathedral and the economy as a whole.
Please go ahead. Share your thoughts with us.
Yes, please. I think 2016, the president made a promise, a pledge that he was going to build a cathedral for the nation. And you were making a pledge to the people, the good people of Ghana, and later you tend to use the state money without approval. But then I equally don't fault him much. I fault the parliamentarians because they are there as a watch on behalf of we, the ordinary citizens who voted them to go there and represent us. So where were they when the Canoforita started using our money without their notice? And now they have the gas to even put it in the budget. So at the first place, how were they even convinced that now the cathedral has moved from the president's own place to a national asset? Now you would think we should spend the state money on it. It's not bad though, but then you should look at what is going on. The youth unemployment is very high. It is very high. How do you go to church and pray with empty stomach? So that I think to me they should have a second look at it so that we'll see the way forward.
Right.
Thank you, Ralph. Ralph there from Nkwanta.
Just 2 quick points. He says, what has Parliament been doing? And yes, I get the point, but just recently, just yesterday, in fact, Parliament shot down the 80 million Ghana cedis budgeted for the National Cathedral for 2023. So at least they've been looking into the matter. There's also the bit about you're saying the president spoke to Ghanaians about doing this in 2016. It actually wasn't a part of his campaign message. It never came up. We only found out after he had become president. And that's why a lot of people are also saying, you never told us you were going to do this.
Exactly. Well, let's see, we have time to pick a call or two, but before that, the Ghana Revenue Authority wishes to inform the general public, especially persons registered for value-added tax, that's VAT, that the Domestic Tax Revenue Division has commenced the implementation of an electronic invoicing system referred to as EVAT. Now, this involves integrating the invoicing systems of VAT-registered taxpayers to the Commissioner General's invoicing system. Kindly contact the GRA toll-free on 0800 900 110 or via these WhatsApp numbers 055 299 0000 or 020 063 1664 for further enquiries. We have a call from Bibiani. Hello, Francis.
Yeah. Hello.
Let's hear you this morning.
Okay. Thank you for giving me this privilege. My problem is about the cathedral. What I know is that the Parliament has to check the oversight of the executive. But it looks as if whatever transaction that is being sent to the Parliament, they don't look through the transaction very well. They just pass it, of which I entreat all the citizens to monitor the parliamentarian so that during the time that, or voting time, we should vote massively against them. Those people who are there in our behalf to check the oversight of the president or the government. But it looks as if whatever that is sent to the parliament, they just approve it without thoroughly go through the activities or the transaction. So it's very problematic for we, the people. This thing has led us to this hardship. Look, we have unemployment rate of which we cannot pay. Look at the way Kenyans are passing through this hardship. So I think citizens should sit up and think over it again. When it is voting time, we should vote massively against the parliamentarians. Those who are supposed to, fight for us to enrich the country.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you too.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us. If we have time for one more call, we'll do that. If not, we'll call it curtains on the show this morning. So that's the call line, 0302 211 691. 0302 211
You almost said
691.
extension too.
I nearly said extension too.
But Benjamin, I don't know if you've realized that there's a lot of traffic in town nowadays. They're approaching Christmas.
These last 2 days.
Out. Yeah, they've been really hectic. Right, our last caller is from Pram. Hello, Paul. Let's hear you.
Yeah, hello.
Hi, Paul. Let's hear you, please.
Yeah, actually, I don't have much to say. Hello? I don't have much to say, actually. The prices of food stuff, that's what I'm here to talk about. Fuel prices are down, transport prices are down, and actually the food prices are not down, and that's what I'm here to talk about. When are they going to reduce the food prices?
Well, we'll have to ask the market women that, but
there have been some interactions with
Exactly.
them, and some of them say, I think yesterday's Daily Graphic and others, they say, listen, some of the foodstuffs, the items, especially imported items, we got them when the dollar price was very high. We'll have to phase out this stock before we can
Even
talk
begin to
about
talk of-
exactly, and it's logical.
right.
It's logical.
Okay, so that was our last caller. Paul, thank you so much for joining the program, and thank you for joining the program. We appreciate your company. It's now time to say goodbye. Benjamin and I will be back tomorrow, God willing.
End of the week.
Yes, sir. Ending the week. He's so excited, Benjamin, and zooming into Christmas full force. But we hope you're having a good time, though, as you prepare for Christmas with your family. Don't forget, on Monday, There is that Joy FM family party in the park at Abri Botanical Garden. Just step out of Accra. Wherever you are, Abri Botanical Garden is a wonderful place. The scenery, the breeze, the atmosphere. Just come and relax and have some fun. And we'll be there. Will you be there?
We shall.
We shall be there, definitely. So see you there and enjoy the rest of your day. For now, it's goodbye from, I almost said Benjamin, from Benjamin and Bernice. Up next.
Please, I'm Bernice.
No,
you are Benjamin.
Up next is News Desk with Samuel Kujabris.